sisters are all excited.
I didn't realize you guys were on the show.
They just like it, but it's like the same.
Oh, so they're kind of like, we're still at 15,000 an hour. Camden County is hard to,
Of course.
yeah, and this is just like that this year, I know some years. Here's what this is actually last, our neighbor, she were in. It's right here.
Of course. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Oh, I know. Well, I know. I got you. Can I borrow $65?
No.
Did it hurt? Oh, my friend.
You're gonna regret bringing that up.
He's British, and I think it's more of a British culture.
That one's always works. Correct, and I bought a new one that we should test that.
Okay.
All right, it's 7 o'clock. I will call the meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, can I get a motion to approve the agenda, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion by Councilmember Pershman.
Prior to approval, I don't know when you want to do this, but I would like to pull an item from the consent agenda for discussion.
Okay, what would you like to pull?
I would like to pull item 7.12, enter into a grading agreement with Tamarack Land Enclave LLC regarding the enclave at Carver Creek from the consent agenda for discussion.
Okay. Eric, do you agree to approve the agenda with that amendment?
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the agenda, moving 7.12 out of the consent agenda for future discussion.
Okay. I'll second. Motion by Pershman, second by Conrad. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right, community comment. I think we have somebody here for community comment. Come on up. While you're doing that, I'll read this. Presenters are welcome to address the City Council for matters relevant to the City of Carver's authority for up to 5 minutes on items that are not listed on tonight's agenda. Specific requests for information may not be immediately available, in which case follow-up will occur with the presenter sometime after the meeting. The City Council should not be expected to immediately act on requests. However, they will follow up accordingly and may schedule items for future consideration. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. I'm Jessica Hager. I live in Victoria, and I'm running for Carver County Sheriff. I just wanted to take a couple minutes tonight and address you guys and just kind of let you know what I'm looking at and why I'm running for sheriff. As I'm guessing you guys are aware, there's a huge recruitment and retention issue at the sheriff's office. I actually was just talking to someone before I came in here. We've lost approximately 6 people to the city of Lakeville, 6 deputies to the city of Lakeville in just over a couple of years. And that's not including all the other people that have left and gone to other agencies. So my biggest focus as far as running is recruitment and retention. And obviously changing the culture at the sheriff's department, because once you change the culture and people want to come to work here, it's going to improve that retention and that recruitment. In a survey that was given to the deputies by their union back in 2024, they cited that it's very difficult for them to recruit people to come here, the current deputies, because of the culture here. And so that needs to change. The other thing is obviously I'm a female. Less than 1% of the sheriffs across the country are female. But one of the things with female sheriffs is that we're much more engaged in community policing. And we're much more supportive of it. And that's one of the big things for me. A little bit about me. I actually am currently a special agent for the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. If you're not familiar with it, we're the state's top law enforcement agency. When you see a major incident, you see the big black truck with BCA on the side, that's us. We handle most of the extremely large cases across the state. For example, some of them, the Annunciation school shooting, the Hortman homicide, those are the things. And we process a lot of other scenes for other agencies. I am on the crime scene team at the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. But in addition to that, I also have stood up 2 statewide programs. One of them is an auto theft prevention lending library, where I created a lending library with over $500,000 of equipment that can be loaned to law enforcement agencies throughout the entire state. Which means, so I've been across the entire state. It's not just a local agency. I also am in the process of standing up a catalytic converter program. I just have to figure out how to get it on an iPad so I can go do checks at the at scrap metal yards. And so it's basically trying to curb that catalytic converter theft. And then prior to that, I was a police officer in the city of Hopkins for 15 years, where I worked patrol. I was an investigator, and I stood up the city's first ever school resource officer program. And so when I look at that, I actually dealt with 6 different school administrators, and it went all the way from Blake School, which is a private school, to charter schools, to our public school system. So working with 6 different school administrators, to me, is kind of like working with 11, well, actually 10 different city councils, right? And so my biggest thing is how to grow that relationship with the city councils, and even just with the cities themselves. How do we improve that? What can we look at as far as contract policing? How can you guys have more buy-in in who your deputies are that are coming to work in your city? Because the way I compare it is if you're hiring and say Carver had its own police department, when you go to hire, you're going to be hiring the officers that you feel best fit your city. So how can we get you more involved in those kind of decisions when deputies are coming in to work your city, rather than the sheriff or the chief deputy choosing who's going to come work in your city? Because you guys know better than anybody who's going to fit well in your city with your residents, right? I mean, that's kind of you guys know it better than the sheriff's office does. But yeah, the biggest thing is just growing those relationships, even with our other public safety partners. Making sure that we're training with the fire departments, that we're training with Ridgeview Ambulance, those kind of things, so that if there is a significant incident, that we're ready to handle that we're not all of a sudden behind the 8 ball and now trying to scramble and figure out, because if we're not training together, it can be different training depending on what department you're with. And so those are really, and then obviously me being from the school resource officer background, improving our school safety. With all the cities don't necessarily have the money, the school districts don't have the money to put an officer in every single school, a deputy in every single school. But there's a lot of ways that I was able to come up with. I was only one person covering 7 schools. But I was also able to come up with different ways that how do you make your school safer when you can't be there all day long? And so those are really just some of my goals as far as coming in as sheriff. I plan on, obviously, if I would hope that I would get reelected. I plan on doing as many terms as I can. I'm not just a one and done term sheriff. I don't think that's good. It's you're not going to be able to get a lot accomplished in 4 years. But that's really my goal, is just to really expand the partnerships, expand our community outreach, make sure our schools are safe, our kids are safe, our roads are safe, and just really build on relationships that have been started, but really expand on those relationships. And like I said, get the cities more involved in what we can do, and get feedback from you guys on what the sheriff's office can do to better serve your needs. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Any question for Jessica?
I do have my flyers if I can hand those out.
I can show you.
Sure.
Yeah, please do.
They're
Thank
actually
you.
my door hangers, so they do have a hole in them. Can I just approach?
Yep. Yes.
Well, I'm not really sure how that works.
Thank you for asking.
We're pretty casual here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for stopping
Yeah,
by.
thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service with the BCA as well.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anybody else for community comment? I don't think we do. Okay. We don't have any presentations and reports. We don't have any public hearings. Can I get a motion for all the items on the consent agenda except for 7.12?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Conrad,
I'll second.
second by Sarah. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right, Kayla, what do you got?
So for those of you who are at home, and for those of us who have been looking at the map of the enclave forever and ever and ever, it was brought to my attention that we have some concerns about stormwater that could lead to some pretty big costs to the city if they're not handled properly during this construction project. Specifically, looking at the enclave property, you can see that there is one single ravine that is in kind of the northern third of the property. It's the only ravine on the property, and it is
Do you have a page that you're referring to?
no, because it does not have the ravine is not marked on the map. So if you look, but the point of this is that there has been concerns brought up that the developer is or was looking to drain the majority of the stormwater runoff from the entire development, or at least through the northern part of that development, through this ravine. It's a fairly delicate ravine. It's got some pretty sandy soil. And similar ravines in other areas, Chaska notably, kind of going into Seminary Fen, has had some really major washout problems with their ravine. Thank you. So you can see on the property image there, that's the ravine that we're talking about. And by routing into that improperly, so it's that kind of finger going into the property there. Yep, thank you. If we don't have the grading such that the stormwater is going through there properly, we can be dealing with a washout problem. Chaska just dealt with a washout problem in a similar ravine. It cost the city more than $1 million to repair that ravine, to prevent erosion and to protect downstream effects on wetlands and surface water quality. It was brought to my attention that the developer has had some pushback on the protections that we need for that ravine. And I just want to make sure that as we approve this grading project, those concerns from the county, CCWMO and staff, that stormwater has been addressed and that we're not pushing a project problem significantly down the road, getting a couple $1 million of trying to fix it in the future. And I know, Aaron, I know Brett talked to you earlier, so.
Yeah. I have one question quick. So because the maps we're bringing up just in discussions, we're not.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about how that comes down, where's that draining, Aaron? Where is that draining now? How is the draining going to change?
What is your ask?
I want to make sure that the concerns that this is going to be a stable ravine have been addressed prior to approving the grading. Because if we let them put the grading in without addressing those concerns, we're looking at in the future possibly having a multi-million-dollar project to fix this ravine.
And as I've understood, that's always part of the process, correct?
Yep. So we've looked at this issue. This is where all the drainage goes today. Obviously, it's kind of the head of Timber Creek. So the drainage goes this way today. The development has to meet all the rate control requirements for both the city and the CCWMO. So they won't be getting any final approvals until both the city and the watershed are satisfied that the rules have been met. From a grading standpoint, we've been out there, we've looked at the ravines. The watershed district has been present with that as well. So I'm confident that the end product is going to be suitable. The development engineering team has done a good job of really trying to reduce the rates from the existing condition that goes into the ravine. So there's actually a pretty significant reduction versus what the rates are leaving the site today. So in particular, we looked at any discharge point that goes into the ravines. We're really going to be focusing on the stabilization in those areas, so there won't be any like localized washout, which would be a future city problem, you know, a nuisance erosion problem at the head of the ravine system. So that's one thing that the city really honed in on as part of its review. Purely from a grading approval standpoint, what the developer is doing is they're going to be grading the site. They're going to be adding all the stormwater basins into this area. So there's actually going to be a very significant reduction in flows leaving the site after the grading work is done and prior to final plat approvals. So
Perfect. Thank you.
Do you want to make a motion?
Yep. I just wanted to, it was a concern that had been brought to my attention. I wanted to make sure it had been addressed fully before we approved the grading project.
I'd add one
Yep.
one thing too, just for everyone's background, mayor and council. The early grading agreements, there's one on here with Enclave, there's another one on for the Summergate development in conjunction with that preliminary plat tonight. They do require expressly, just from a legal standpoint, that the developer gets any and all required permits from other entities before they start any of that work. So they have to get permits from the CCWMO prior to doing that. So we wouldn't just approve this or have the council approve this, sign it, and they'd be off and running. They still oftentimes need to get permitting and approvals and plan review done by those other agencies. So I just want to make sure that you understand there's that kind of gap that's filled between now and when they actually start moving dirt and those kinds of things.
Perfect. Thank you.
Kayla, you want to make the motion for that?
Yes, I will make a motion to approve item 7.12, enter into a grading agreement with Tamarack Land Enclave LLC regarding the enclave at Carver Creek.
Motion by Pasco.
I'll second.
Thank you. Second by Frischman. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right, moving on to business items, the joint powers agreement for Jonathan Carver Parkway improvements. Mr. Schmidt,
all right, good evening.
good evening.
I'm going to pull up the presentation.
It's like fun little narration. And now?
And- yep. Okay, looks like it's working. So thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight we're considering a joint powers agreement with Carver County for the project known as Casan 11 and 40 improvements, which I'll maybe call JCP Phase 2. So that will be kind of where Jonathan Carver Parkway improvements ended last time, which was at 4th Street. This would be a continuation of that project going south to the intersection of 11 and 40, which is the road that goes to Jordan. It's also adjacent to the Summerfield development. So just to kind of get your bearings of where we're at in the world, I'll show a location map here shortly. But tonight we're talking about a joint powers agreement between the City of Carver and Carver County for those improvements. So first question is, why is a joint powers agreement needed? Obviously, Jonathan Carver Parkway is a county roadway under their jurisdiction. So any sort of a joint a project that would be undertaken between the two agencies would be done under this agreement. A major piece of the project is the extension of trunk utilities, so trunk sanitary sewer and water main. That's a trunk project that's going to be filling that gap in our system. So the city has a very big stake in that. There's a lot of coordination that goes into these projects to get utilities extended. There's a lot of private utility coordination and such. So the city has a very big stake in the project. Also, from a timing standpoint, there's also imminent development that's going to be happening in this area. The county has a lot of things going on right now. So as a lead agency, the city is really able to push that project forward on a schedule that we deem is appropriate for the area. So that's really why this is being presented as a city-led project in coordination with the county. All those things, it reduces rework, improves efficiency. So again, with our trunk utilities being extended, doing that all together in a coordinated fashion is going to be really important. So versus doing it as two separate projects, a city project, a county project, that's just going to get messy. It's not something that I'd recommend doing. So, so what the agreement does, is it essentially establishes the roles and the responsibilities between the two agencies, how the project's going to be delivered from planning into design, the development of the construction documents, and then ultimately the construction of those improvements. So it's really the one-stop shop that's going to lay out the framework for how this project is going to proceed from start to finish. Okay, so council action that would be considered tonight is to enter into that joint powers agreement with the county. It's going to, again, support the design and construction of those improvements, and this would be a city-led effort in coordination with the county. So the project is necessary for a variety of reasons. Obviously, the entire region is growing in a significant way, both from just a county regional model standpoint and the imminent development that's going to be happening with the Summerfield. So based on those traffic forecasts, improvements are necessary on this corridor to safely convey the traffic up and down the corridor. So improvements are needed to support the growth of the area. So again, as I alluded to earlier, this is the location map of the improvements. Again, it's from 4th Street, where the last project ended, down to the intersection of 11 and 40. There are some major improvements planned. Obviously, expansion of the roadway from 4 lanes to 2 lane. So it'll be a 4-lane urban section similar to what was completed on the north phase. There'll be 2 roundabouts that are going to be contemplated. The first one obviously is the primary intersection at 11 and 40, where the future Summerfield development would be getting their primary access point. And then another roundabout would be happening at 11 and Main Street West. So that's kind of the bookends of the project per se. Trail extensions would be happening throughout the entire corridor. So on the east side of the corridor, there's a planned trail extension for continuity, and then an underpass is also being proposed near the intersection of 11 and 40, which would support pedestrian movement under 11 towards the Summerfield development, where there'll be a lot of pedestrian traffic in the future. As I mentioned, urbanization, so curb and gutter would be installed, storm sewer improvements, and stormwater basins. And then lastly, obviously, the trunk utility extensions throughout the project corridor. From a funding standpoint, based on our preliminary estimates that we did with the corridor study, which just wrapped up, this is about a $15.3 million project. The distribution is about 22% would be the City of Carver cost share, with the balance being the Carver County cost share. So City of Carver is estimated at about $3.35 million. You can see here on the slide on the right, there's a variety of funding sources that are being contemplated to be used for this project, from park dedication funding, stormwater enterprise funds, developer contribution to the intersection improvements at 11 and 40, and then a trunk fund contribution for the street restoration costs that would be associated with the trunk line extensions. And then if needed, street reconstruction bonds would fill any gap that might remain. So talking about timeline and next steps, obviously tonight we are here for the joint powers agreement approval. Should the council elect to move forward, the county does plan to bring this forward to their board. They have a meeting that they would bring it forward tomorrow, should the council approve. And we'd be looking at moving right into preliminary design after that. So we'd get a project management team meeting set up with the county staff and city leadership team, and we would start progressing through the preliminary design stages of this project. We'd want to get public engagement started here this summer. There's been a lot of questions related to what does this corridor look like going forward. So we want to make sure that we receive that that feedback from the public early in the process. So that's something that will get set up right away here as the project proceeds. There are a number of parcels that will require easements for the project, so we'd be moving into any land acquisitions starting here in the fall, and that would go through the spring of 2027. So after the land acquisition piece of the project is completed, we'd be looking at moving towards the construction document and bidding the project here in the summer of 2027. Priority construction activities, obviously the utility extensions is really important, which would support any development in this area. So we'd be looking at prioritizing that first. Typically that's how it works with a project like this. The underground utilities go in first, and then the widening of the roadways would happen in 2027, and then the balance of the project would be completed in 2028. So we're anticipating a multi-year project. This is a large project. Like I said, it's about $15 million, but really stressing those trunk utilities here in 27 with final completion in 2028. So that's what I have.
So if I'm thinking about that the right way, the way you kind of split that out in your explanation just now, the heavy road construction is 2028. And utilities are digging along the right of way more so than.
We haven't gotten into the phasing plan
Okay.
with like kind of what's going to be the heavier versus the lighter year.
Sure.
I could see there being benefit to getting the roadway, the utilities done with the roadway widening. So that it could be a heavy year next fall. It could be a big year. So
Okay.
I just don't know like when
Yeah.
exactly quite yet.
And I'm sure that this is like a crystal ball question of tell me what your crystal ball says. But with phase 1 of the JCP project, that was a full shutdown. Do you anticipate having to do that again, or could we do that to shorten a construction process?
That's a really good question, and I think that's a real probability. There's private utilities, there's significant private utilities along the corridor that will need to get adjusted as part of the project. There's high pressure gas mains, there's other things specific to the corridor improvements that they'll have to get moved. So I could see there being a window where we would offer a closure period really to accelerate construction. It would also allow for us to get our utilities under the road and extended in the most efficient fashion. So that's definitely something we're going to want to explore.
Okay, we can certainly double check. And right now I'm only speaking for myself, but I remember we were at a business alliance meeting for the first phase, and we asked all the business owners what their preference was. And they said, rip the Band-Aid off. Let's get this done as soon as we can, as quickly as we can. So,
yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions?
So the proportional cost sharing here, if we get in a cost overrun or a change order, is it still split at that 78-22%?
No, so I guess the framework for how all the bid items are split out have been determined through the corridor study. Now, if the unit pricing of say the paving unit price per ton goes up by 20%, that's gonna, the county's gonna have a lot more share of the paving costs because it's county pavement, so their share might actually go up a little bit more if that's the case. It's really kind of, I guess what I'm trying to say is it'll ebb and flow.
Okay.
So it'll be
dynamic, it's not
reallocated.
fixed.
Yeah, it'll get
it's
reallocated when we get the bids, and you'll be presented with the actual numbers at that time. But based on our estimates, this is what the cost share is right now.
Any other questions?
I had a question on, and I don't have the name of the street, but it's on the map where it's a cul-de-sac. There's only one entrance exit.
Mount Carmel.
No,
I'll go back.
I want to. It's not Overlook.
On the city side of it.
Is it called Overlook?
Overlook.
Okay. I think I was thinking Overlook Parks. But that street or that neighborhood. Did we find out anything more if the neighborhood could connect to what we typically call the bluffs? Like there was a good chunk of land, but it was questionable on could that be a road? And is it the homeowners association?
So I think what you're asking is making a connection to the south onto Jonathan Carver Parkway from Overlook.
To avoid having to if there was another road that
Yeah. So there's
those
there's a
homes-
piece of land that's owned by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and I have reached out to them about that. It's probably been a couple months, and we haven't heard anything back from them. So we're really thinking that's probably not going to be a legitimate
Mhm.
connection to make.
I would like us to still look into it. I just think the trade-off
Mhm.
for not having just if it's another option rather than having another in and out for that new 4-lane road.
Good question. Thank you. Yep.
Other questions, feedback? Okay, motion? Anyone?
I'll make a motion to enter into a joint powers agreement with Carver County for design and construction on county state aid highways 11 and 40.
Motion by Councilmember Conrad,
I'll second.
second by Frischman. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. Up next, we have the Summerfield Development Preliminary Plat and Rezoning. Ms. Smith.
Thank you. I might be having the screen issue of the night, though.
Is it your computer? You're not doing well tonight.
I know, it's new.
My link isn't opening now.
No, I don't.
I can pull it up on your.
I know.
Give you a clicker.
If I could have a clicker, I could do it.
It's, PDF.
It doesn't matter.
Clicker?
Clickety click click. While we do it, I'm gonna
Is yours
restart
open?
mine.
Mine opened.
Is it under your notifications?
It's getting stuck. I'll try stuff.
We're all trying to open it at the exact same time and the internet's getting mad.
Nothing's happening on mine. There we go.
Oh, it's not in there. That's fine. I
City
thought you were doing
Council.
agenda.
Yes. Presentations.
I can float to the city manager's.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Done. All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. Just wanted to share a few things. I'm gonna, Riverside Park grant. We got notification that Great River Greening has funded that project. I'm gonna skip that because I asked Aaron to share a little bit. Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you. We just are wrapping up work with Great River Greening and Creekside. So they were the group that helped us with the creek restoration throughout Creekside Park. So for Riverside, we have secured $83,200 for 4 acres of restoration in Riverside. We asked if we could be the very first on their list, knowing that downtown has been under construction for a while with the Merriam Junction Trail and then the levee project. So we are hopeful that we can be one of the first projects that they start working on. The contract began July 2026 and runs through December 2029. The funding that was secured via Great River Greening was via the Environmental and Natural Resources Trust Fund, which is a state lottery pool of money that they can access.
And Great River Greening helped with Creekside,
Mhm.
and there was a volunteer component with that. Is that
Yes.
always in their projects, or?
I don't know if it's an always thing, but if it's something we're interested in, I think they'd be happy to entertain it. We can absolutely
It was
ask.
great before. It was great before, full stop. Also would be cool if we could get more of our community members
Yes.
engaged in volunteering.
Agreed.
I was just gonna say, Great River Greening professionally, I work with them some, and the last one we had was a closed group. If we could have it open, because there was a lot of interest from residents who wanted to help volunteer. So
Plus
it'd be nice,
TC
like-
Bear was there. It was so
Yes.
fun.
Plus there was a
Right,
bear
there you go.
sighting in Carver. Thank you.
All right, and then just a reminder at your next regular meeting will be the Public Services Facility presentation. So we'll have Ortel Architects, Terra Construction, and then Andrew will be leading a presentation on that. We gave a little preview in the July newsletter. There's kind of a history of our facilities and how the community has grown, kind of teeing up the conversation, inviting people to learn more about the project. But again, this is really what amounts to be the first step towards engaging the community in what this project is and taking that feedback and answering questions. So looking forward to that. In July, another kind of a larger project, the school district's transportation center, or kind of commonly referred to as the bus garage. That concept plan is going to make its way through our city processes. So July 16th, Planning Commission, and then likely August 3rd, City Council meeting.
So sorry, that's for sure going to be in the July, because I've been following the emails back and forth, and I know that there are some significant hurdles.
We have a meeting with the district tomorrow. So if they move forward, the packet will go out this Friday. So I would say between tomorrow, Tuesday, and Friday.
Okay.
Keep your eyes peeled to see if there's an agenda.
Okay, because for what it's worth, I just have share kind of what was in that memo with concerns with the shed. I think the doors have been open on that because they can't close. They seem to be a little askew. The no windows, it was exactly what we went through with Les Schwab. No windows on the east side or the Jonathan Carver Parkway facing side. The bus layover space. We don't want to see buses out, and the fence. I don't think it makes sense to build something with the intention of shielding it. So just my 2 cents.
Then getting the council ready for the first draft of the general fund budget. So that'll be at your second work session in August. The street maintenance projects are gearing up. Resident notices for those that live in the construction zones have went out. We shared those postings to our social media channels. So work is going to be beginning early August. We have contact information on our handouts for if residents have questions about the projects or need assistance during the construction.
Sorry, another question.
Yeah.
With those starting in early August, which I think is a little bit later in the construction season that we would sometimes see, we also had talked about intentionally kind of compressing as much as we can the construction season. Am I correct in assuming that that's exactly what we're doing?
This was just a function of when their start date was. So it kind of indirectly, I'd say.
Okay,
So
I would take credit for it.
Yeah.
Do you want to try
No,
that
you
again
can-
and say, yes,
you
that
can
was
take the
absolutely
credit
my
for it,
plan?
Mary.
Okay, all right,
Yep.
thank you.
for sure.
And kind of a FYI, but also an update. So the old River Learning Center, or if you're from Carver a long time, the old Carver Liquor Building at 309 Broadway has been acquired by a company, or a bit. It's actually being rented. I shouldn't say acquired, but operating a smoke shop. So Carver Smoke Shop. The owner is going to be taking a sign application to the Heritage Preservation Commission next Tuesday, but I just wanted to make the council aware there's just going to be some more activity connected with Carver County, which does our tobacco licensing, and confirm that they got their proper licensure for tobacco. So you'll see some activity there. And then asked Andrew Simmons, the Director of Public Services, to update the council on the city's Emerald Ash Borer planning. You might have noticed there's probably been some trees impacted in some of our parks. So I just wanted to ask Andrew to share some perspectives on those events.
Yeah, so there's, I would say, kind of two main parks, at least that I can see, that have some ash borer problems. Community Park and Bluff Park. I would say Bluff Park is probably the few ash trees that are there are probably too far gone. So those will probably be removed this year, and then we'll replant something in those spaces. At Community Park, those trees are hanging on a little bit longer. I don't want to start taking any of those trees down before we have to. With some future improvements in Community Park, with the playground and, possibly the shelter, what does that space look like? So before we remove trees and plant new trees, there's possibly a master plan that probably needs to be developed, so we're not having to redouble our efforts there to generate some shade in the future.
That makes sense. I did notice one tree that's kind of just south of the ice skating rink or basketball court that might be, I don't know what your scale of too far gone is or like ready to be removed, but
Mhm.
that one.
Yeah,
looked
we'll
a
take a
little-
look at what we have
Okay.
when we rent the chipper.
And then one final piece, I took this picture. But I just wanted to give Andrew and Paul and the whole public service team a shout out for the hanging plants look great downtown, and I know they've invested a lot of time in the roundabout at JCP and 6, and I think that looks as good as it's ever had. So I just want to thank your team for those efforts.
Thank you. Looks great.
Okay, I'm gonna try one more time.
Okay.
If it doesn't work, I'll go to the clicker.
Third time could be the charm.
I restarted.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for your patience. Like the mayor previously said, tonight we are reviewing several requests for Summerfield. Oh no.
It's okay. It's gonna come back.
It was so beautiful while it lasted. Okay, there we go. Okay. All right, let's keep it going. Cross your fingers. So 2 typical requests that we see: preliminary plat and rezoning. So a request to go from agriculture to R2 with a planned residential development or PRD overlay, and then an early development agreement. So typically you see those on a consent agenda. You just saw one for the enclave. Due to the timing of this project, we're including it since you are reviewing other agenda items for Summerfield as part of the agenda item. So it's not pulled out for any specific reason. It just made more sense to include it here instead of having it in the consent agenda, dependent on the preliminary plat approval. I just cleaned it up a little bit for ordering of the presentation, but there also is a unique component that in the early development agreement, it's for grading, which we typically see. And then they've asked to do some utility work early in the process due to pipe depth. So they're going to be grading pretty significantly in some of these areas that it doesn't make sense to grade, come back out later after final plat approval to do that pipe work when they already are in that space doing that grading work. So it's a little bit different of an agreement. Dave drafted it. We've worked through it with Summergate. All parties comfortable with the agreement. So there's that third component as part of your review tonight: preliminary plat, rezoning, and the early development agreement. So tonight I'm going to give a staff presentation. We'll invite Casey. Ryan is here with Westwood up to the presenters table. We can ask some questions that you might have for me, start a conversation, and then you can move through those approvals as you see fit. So some context of where we are. So on the screen on the left is the general project area, some highlights called out of Carver Elementary and Creekside Park. So typically what we've been calling our southwest growth area. So largely at the intersection of County Road 40 and County Road 11 where they converge. Yeah, that was right. And then moving through up to the project area with the Bluffs being that first residential project that you see when you begin moving north. And then you'll see on the right is the city's adopted comprehensive plan. So we'll start zeroing in on a couple of the properties. We'll talk about the guidance, how the properties hit the densities, and what that means for our comp plan. So if you are feeling like we've done a couple of reviews about Summerfield, you are right. We've been working on this project for a while. So originally we saw the concept plan in March. The Planning Commission saw it March of 2025. You recently had the annexation before you at a city council level. And then we've been working through several approvals of the alternate urban area-wide review, or the AUAR. That process wrapped up at a recent city council meeting. So closing the chapter on the AUAR, the environmental review that was required, but also expanded due to project size and some things that we were thinking about beyond just the Summerfield area in our growth space in the southwest quadrant of the city. We held a neighborhood meeting on June 4th. So we had a great group of residents coming in to talk about specific issues with Casey, his team, his engineering team. We really ran the gamut of topics that we talked about. It was some folks coming in asking about development of their property and others saying, things that they know about the county road that we might not know since we don't interface with that specific area on the day-to-day basis like they do. So grateful for the group that came out to give us that information. It allowed us to tailor some of the information and pause in some places that I think were important so we could gather more information, meet people where they were at, and work through the project collectively. The Planning Commission reviewed this project at their June 18th meeting. They held the required public hearing. And then just something to note is that this is a phase project. So this is phase 1, 276 units with several other phases to come, likely over the next several years. So we're not anticipating that it'll be a 2-phase project done in 2027. This will be a project that you'll be seeing at a review level for final plat as we continue through the next several years. So some details about the AUAR. It took about 14 months from start to finish to get through the environmental review. And it's a hybrid document of an environmental assessment worksheet, or an EAW, an environmental impact statement, the EIS. And it looks at all things, both natural and built environments, so land use, geology, water resources, traffic, which was really important to this project specifically, got us to the agreement that you just reviewed with Carver County, wildlife, visual, air, greenhouse gases, noise, et cetera, et cetera. There were so many reviews during this process. I think we all collectively learned a lot about getting the information out to other government agencies that require review. It's both local and state that they were given several opportunities to review the project, give us comments, ask us questions, say, we know about XYZ, can you include this in the report? Generally, the comments were really straightforward. We didn't have anything that came up that was overly suspicious or something that was surprising. So overall, it was a smooth process. It was long, but we got there. Just working through the several reviews, approvals by City Council, et cetera. Something to note that folks might be talking about a little bit is that the area in the AUAR covered beyond the Summerfield area. So when you saw the map that the AUAR area covered, it looked a little bit jarring because it was huge, thinking that this project was coming in right now and there were going to be X thousands of units coming in the next couple of years. We worked with Summergate to identify a broader project scope, knowing that the information gathered would impact Summerfield, but also beyond that. So it felt remiss of us to do a really extensive study in one area, but not think about traffic further west and how that could impact the traffic decisions that we're making on the County Road project in Summerfield for projects that might be upcoming in the next several years. So the area that was studied in the AUAR goes beyond just the Summerfield proposed project area. Something that's interesting about an AUAR is that it feels a little bit like a section of our comp plan. So it lives with the city. We can update it with new proposed projects as we learn more, update the information if something changes. It's a dynamic document that should not stay stagnant as we learn more about projects that are coming in and work that might be completed in the area. So getting back to phase 1. The overall scope of phase 1 is 276 lots. So it's, again, phase 1 of many. It's three parcels in total. For the comp plan, there are 2 properties that are guided low density. One is guided medium density. We'll talk through that a little bit. The range of the lots on the property are 35-foot lots to 60-foot lots. Something I've been thinking about, the 35-foot lots, is really similar to River Bluff Estates. So as you're leaving Carver, out Old Carver Road, that is a good example of what those would generally look like, a different product type, different builder, et cetera, but a feel for that neighborhood. The project is slated to have a robust HOA that will take care of things like 2 pocket parks and then some really extensive buffering that occurs throughout the project. So making sure that buffering occurs in perpetuity. So having the HOA maintain that land instead of having property lines extend through some of that buffering where someone can make a decision about trees that they like or dislike, where in HOA, it's a little bit tougher of a process to remove a whole swath of trees. There's sidewalk and trail throughout the project. Like Aaron mentioned, we'll talk a little bit about the roundabout, how that enters into the city system, bringing folks north to our existing trail system, how it can interface with each other. And then for phase 1, there are 2 known builders, Lennar, they're currently in town on Timber Creek. They wrapped up Oak Tree a couple years ago. And then MI did Meadows at Spring Creek, so off Spring Creek Drive. There's a large community scale park in a future phase. So we've been talking a little bit about parks planning. That is something to come. It's not included in phase 1, but something that we'll discuss at a future phase. And then obviously the roundabout heading into the project, which you just reviewed with the County Road agreement. Some project details we don't know. We know more now about the corridor work on GCP. It's a county developer city process. Like Aaron mentioned, an open house will be held. Just knowing that folks along that corridor know the area. They know what happens when it rains really hard or what it looks like when traffic is moving. Other intersections outside of phase one, we're starting to get a clearer view of what those might look like, but it's been pretty fluid throughout the process, trying to complement new development, so new residents coming in, but also respecting the township system. So not adding an extensive amount of new Carver City traffic to a township road where we can avoid it. There's a mixed use section that is held in Outlet as part of phase one. We don't know much about that yet, but to come in a future phase. And then again, we don't know a ton about the future phases. So we do know that people are excited about the potential age restricted section that's on the north side of the project. I get calls and emails about that probably weekly, just looking for an update, folks looking for a housing product type that we don't currently offer. So a single family age restricted neighborhood similar to like Del Webb and Chaska. So we hear folks that they're excited about it. We'll keep working with Summergate to see if we can figure it out soon. So in relation, this is phase one on the map is on the left right now. And then on the right is the city's comprehensive plan. And the area for the project is outlined in blue. So you can see it's not the greatest resolution on the screen. The two properties further west that have more of a north-south orientation are the lightest of lightest yellows, and that's our low density. And then the one that's adjacent to the county road is a slightly darker yellow, which calls for medium density. So we'll think through those densities as we start reviewing some of the project specifics. But again, reminder, two of the properties are guided low density, one is guided medium density. On the screen now is an illustrative neighborhood plan that was been provided to get a general feel for the neighborhood. You can see as you enter, it's that future development is that mixed use piece that I was talking about that will be held in Outlet for future development. What that looks like in the future, we're not sure, but we'll see if it's a mixed use of like maybe a small commercial user, some type of different housing type that could be there as well. And you start to orient yourself with that roundabout, how it enters the project, and then into those three parcels that are contemplated for development tonight. You'll see that the property furthest east is hitting a higher density, that medium density in the city's comp plan. And then the two properties a little bit further west expand to that 60-foot wide lot as we continue west and south. So the builder on the east side of the project as you enter will be Lennar, and then MI takes the north and south section on the west side of the project. So those 50-foot lots on the north and the 60-foot lots on the south. So an overall phasing plan is on the left now. So again, starting to think about what this project looks like long-term, some phases you might start reviewing in the future. The purple is what I was talking about, that age-restricted neighborhood. So it's a high amenity space where there's a robust HOA, community spaces, et cetera, with an age restriction, typically 55 or better. So thinking through that as a future phase. And then obviously there are some future phases between here and there. So phase two generally looks like it's north of the phase one project area and then also shoots a little bit south. Like I mentioned previously, we've been actively thinking about how this project intersects with township roads, knowing that this is an area that's starting to develop. It's not a connection into a final piece. So the three yellow boxes that are on the right of the screen are places where we're going to stop construction of the road short. So folks will not be able to access the county road, the township road system from that development. So our goal is to have them funnel to that roundabout to get them onto the county road safely, but also to lessen the impact of township residents that are living on Mount Carmel. So that road is in township condition, so it doesn't have curb, gutter, et cetera. So to add 276 additional homes using that space, the wear and tear on that road would accelerate pretty quickly. And we don't want that condition to be present for the township when we are in a party in maintenance on that street right now. So as phases continue to come into the city, phase two, there will be connection north and south most likely that will offer additional connection. But right now for phase one, we're going to stop those streets short to have them funnel to the roundabout to get onto the county road system. It also creates a safer condition for them to enter the system instead of the Mount Carmel connection, which is a little further north, knowing that generally going into a roundabout is a safer condition than going into a T-stop onto a county road. So something we worked hard with the township, some residents, just to make sure that we weren't being overly impactful to their current condition.
Aaron, so I understand for phase one, the road will stop short, but when will we have to expand those roads, or when will that impact
So in
Mount Carmel? Is there a workaround for that to have them always stop short so that we're not imposing on those folks?
So when phase 2 comes in, there will be connection here and here. So again, the goal is to have folks get into that roundabout. You can see that the future plan creates a dead end loop system here.
Okay.
So again, a work in process, figuring out what these look like with the township and the county. But our goal is to eliminate the increased traffic onto Mount Carmel directly as it stands today.
And they're aware of this, but this isn't something that we're gonna work through until we get to the point of phase 2.
I would say, yeah, like the streets will stop in phase 1 until phase 2 is contemplated.
Okay, thank you.
So again, phase 1 is this general area. Phase 2 will be a little bit north. So once we make those connections, there are several ways that you can get through the project through different spaces on different roadways, allowing several spaces that isn't the Mount Carmel intersection at the county road.
Aaron, I have a question about that too. Does that start when the construction vehicles and grading happens, or is that when houses are sold and it's more for the new residents?
So in the agreements, the early start agreements, we identify a haul route. So when heavy construction starts to go in, it'll go in via the proposed roundabout street. So I think it's labeled as Street A in the preliminary plat right now.
Thank you.
So on the screen now is just the call out of the different housing types with Lennar and then MI. So again, Lennar is the first product coming in with that 35-foot lot. There are 40 of those. 40-foot lots, there's 57. 45-foot lots, 24. And then they offer a 50-foot lot, there are 57. And then MI Homes, which is the north and south portion of the west side of the project, is 50, 10, 9. That's tough math for me on the go. It's like 24. And then the 60-foot wide lots are on the south side of the project. So several housing types offered throughout the project. And then you can start to see what that trail connectivity system looks like with a couple pocket parks that will be included. HOA maintained, so does not count for park dedication, does not offer any dedication amount against the city's fund there. So it'll be pocket parks maintained and owned by the HOA. So not adding additional maintenance to our system either. On the screen now is the preliminary plat. So thinking through that technical document that shows where the streets are, where the lots are, where outlots are, etc. And then a call out that there are several outlots throughout the project. So you'll start to get a feel of the city will be taking ponding outlots primarily, but then you can see that the private parks and landscape buffers will be owned and maintained long-term by the HOA. So you can start to work through the project. We will be taking outlots for ponding, which is our typical practice, but some of those other uses will be held by the HOA. Thinking through the PRD requests that they have, so the R2 zoning district is on the top of the screen right now, and then I've highlighted some areas that they're requesting some additional feedback on. So the minimum lot area in the R2 district in our zoning code is 7,000 square feet. The lot width is 60 feet, and then the side yard is 7.5 feet. So like I mentioned previously, some of those lots are smaller. So that 35-foot lot is obviously inconsistent with the 60-foot lot that's identified in the city code. And then the lot minimums also have decreased to allow for that medium density to occur on that first parcel as you enter into the project. So the PRD request is for the minimum lot area to be reduced, the minimum lot width to be reduced, and then that side yard setback to be reduced to 5 feet on either side. So we've seen that in several projects. Again, River Bluff Estates is a really compatible comparison to this project for lot width, the side yard setback, and the lot size. So if you're looking for how this development might feel as you enter in, that would be a great one to drive through some night with maybe an ice cream cone downtown. But then also the 5-foot reduction setback has happened in Meadows, Oak Tree, Timber Creek, Brookview. So that reduction to the 5 feet has been requested and previously approved by the council several times in recent development projects. So the PUD standards, PRD in Carver, are on the screen below, so you can see the reduction requests throughout and what those lots will look like. Consistency with the front yard setback and the rear yard setback. So I've been talking a lot about the densities that are required on the site. So in our comp plan, that is our density requirement on the left. So our low density residential calls for 3 to 5 units per acre. Medium density calls for 5 to 12 units per acre. So again, 2 of the properties guided low density. You can see that they hit at 3.92 units per acre. So right in that sweet spot between 3 and 5. And then the first, as you enter into the project, is slated to hit at 5.45 units per acre. So again, hitting that medium density requirement in our comp plan. So a comp plan amendment is not contemplated here with those different housing types offered across the 3 properties. Pedestrian access is obviously important in this project and beyond. So there will be an enhanced pedestrian crossing as you enter the project, as you start to move west. And then obviously Aaron mentioned the underpass, so allowing for pedestrians to leave the Summerfield development, get north into the city to enter into our full trail system. So the roundabout will operate similarly when you're driving through it, but there will be an underpass that will allow for you to safely travel under the roundabout leg. And then we're working with the county right now potentially at an at-grade crossing on the north leg of the roundabout, contemplating what that might look like should we move forward with that decision. So several pedestrian facilities are being contemplated with this project, the biggest one being the roundabout, which you previously reviewed with Aaron.
Did you say at grade on the north
Yes.
side above the roundabout or above the tunnel?
Yep.
Okay, so there
That
would be.
that hasn't been completely determined yet.
Okay.
The county's that's kind of a county policy item that we just haven't gotten that far. I consider the pedestrian movements at the roundabout very conceptual on that
Okay.
picture.
But what I'm seeing right now, it looks like 3 of the 4 roads there's at grade
Correct.
right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
TBDA on
Mhm.
the north side. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
The landscape plan, which we've talked about a lot with the buffering. So the street that comes in on the roundabout into the project is a collector road. So think about it similarly to Monroe. So thinking about how traffic enters that system, travels, another east-west collector that we'll see, but there's extensive buffering along the Lennar lots entering the site. So in this area, there's extensive buffering. Also on this side, this area is held an outlot for some additional buffering from a farm user and ag user that is planning to stay. So offering some additional space in this area. But again, landscaping throughout the development that will be long-term maintained by the HOA in some key buffering locations. Some samples of what the Lennar houses will look like. So again, that first property coming in that hits that medium density. So some different housing types than what we currently have in Carver. And then an idea of what some of the interiors will look like. So slab on grade homes, the smallest ranging at about 1,281 square feet. And then a little bit larger product at 2,170 square feet. Again, these are both Lennar products. And then the MI homes. So very similar to what we've seen in Meadows at Spring Creek. So thinking about that development, what it will look like on that north and south portion of the west side of the project. Like I previously mentioned, the Planning Commission reviewed this project at their June 18th meeting. We had 8 people at the public hearing, which I just want to extend a thank you to them. Can be a little overwhelming to come in and speak at a public hearing, but it was great to get their information, hear what they had to say. It's always great to have a full room learning more about a project, no matter what their stance is on it. I hope that they can always walk away with at least some more information. So we received some questions throughout about the county road improvements. That was a big piece of it. Just folks that have historically lived in this corridor for a long time, asking specific questions about how their property will be impacted. Timing of the project was big. Some clarification about what annexation looks like, township versus city boundary, and then drainage, especially at the northeast corner of the project boundary. So as you enter the site from that roundabout. We have a slide coming up and I'm going to toss it to Aaron after this, but I would like to note that the Planning Commission recommended approval of the prelim plat and rezone on a 5-0 vote.
Yeah, so I just wanted to elaborate a little bit. One of the concerns that we heard about, which I think was a really nice comment, as this project drains off-site, as you see on the screen here, situated is that northeast corner of the development. There's a series of ponds that the water drains through as it moves through the site. Ultimately, the discharge location off the property is in this northeast corner. And one thing that we heard from some of the residents was this area doesn't really drain very well off the site. It's kind of a low area that doesn't have a reliable overflow in it. So that was a really good comment, and it's something that we're looking at really closely. I've had communication with the resident. His name is Mr. Dean Stewie, and we're actually going to be meeting at his property on Thursday to look at that area specifically, both with myself, the CCWMO team, and also the county highway department. So based on what I know today, there's really no reliable outlet to that low area. So it can present some kind of localized flooding issues during rain events. So what we'd really be looking at doing is, as part of the county road project, we want to get a reliable outlet out of that area so that it can't bounce up and cause flooding issues. So that's something that I think that we're going to bake into that county road project. As I mentioned in my prior presentation, there'll be storm sewer. So we have an opportunity to actually provide like an inlet pipe to take that water once it gets at an elevation that's so high. Additionally, we're working with the development team to really make sure that we're minimizing the water that gets there to the extent that is possible. Right now, clearly they have to meet the rules for both the city and the CCWMO water rules, but trying to really optimize that and do what we can to reduce the flows as much as we can. Understanding that with the low areas, you need to maintain hydrology. So you can't just cut off all the water to the area, because you'd essentially dry up a basin that is seasonally, wet right now. So you can't just say, okay, we're going to take all the water, we're just going to send it down Jonathan Carver Parkway, and we're going to deal with it at the bottom of the hill. That's just not a sustainable or a viable solution, I should say. But I guess the point of it is, we've heard the comment, it was a good comment, and we're going to continue to work through that issue as these plans develop, both for the final plat of this project and for the county road improvements. Right, so.
Thank you.
Yep.
So again, tonight there are 3 requests before you: review preliminary plat, rezoning, and then that early development agreement for grading and utility work due to pipe depth. That's so hard to say. Pipe depth. At this point, Casey, do you want to join us for the conversation? Will you introduce yourself?
Hi.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Casey Walschlager with City of Carver.
Thank you.
Good evening again. I'm Casey Walschlager with Summergate Development. We're kind of glad to get to this point where we're finally seeing maybe the start of things. The project has a lot of different elements. She brought up a number of them, talking about the different size lots. One of the things, whether I don't know, I've been to all your meetings, but one of the things that's really kind of happened with the Met Council is it used to be where you could have these kind of yellow zones and orange zones, and just as long as it all kind of averaged out and met that number, everybody was happy. And then the council kind of changed the plan and said, well, that orange zone, literally down to the inch, will be that zoning, that size lot, or that size whatever. And they've made it a lot more difficult to use common sense and just kind of make sense of plans. So everybody's changed their philosophy a little bit. And so our plan, as it's gone through many iterations over the last couple of years as we work with staff, one of the things that we kind of originally had is we're just going to do townhomes in one section. Then it was, well, we just maybe we'll average it out. And we were kind of thinking, because that was how it was done. And then Met Council kind of, like I said, changed their philosophy a little bit over the last 18 months. And we kind of reverted back to making sure that the medium density area meets medium density qualifications just to the, literally down to that section. So when we were working with Lennar, one of the things we've kind of, seen in the marketplace is that townhomes are becoming a little bit less viable due to the association costs. And everybody's kind of scrambling, trying to come up with different variations to kind of meet these density requirements. Everybody wants to get a higher density number to appease the Met Council or just appease the general thing. And so this project is one we did with a different product with Lennar, where they basically took their townhome product and split it into smaller lots. And that's why we have these 35-foot wide lots. But if you were kind of looking at the variance between, this typical city lot and how small we've gone. And I think that's a good trade-off, because you essentially end up having the same product that would have been there for a townhome, but now people have individual homes, their own little yard, they can have a fence, if they have pets or whatever it is, they don't have to have shared walls. And it's literally the exact same unit, just split. And that's kind of created a few different products inside the Lennar zone. That's kind of, to me, are kind of neat, because it's the real goal is to still create an affordable product, but yet meet the requirement of not having an association payment. She did bring up there will be a master association, but that would be a minimally year-long, one-time payment kind of thing for everybody, versus a $200 or $300 or $400 payment monthly to an HOA, which is really squeezing where townhomes used to be this great affordable thing. Well, when people are qualifying for loans now, if they have to pay $300 or $400 or $500 a month for association dues, and you add that to their payment, all of a sudden, their number is bigger than it cost to go buy a single family house, which was the whole exact opposite of what the idea was for that transitory home style. So that's one of the biggest elements we see in our project in phase one. The other thing we're kind of excited about, watching that roundabout get figured out as they go through that process. I mean, I've been through like so many different meetings on that. We're kind of excited to see how that comes together. And then a large number of the people, I've been getting lots of different feedback from people who live north of Mount Carmel Road in that little neighborhood there, or even just on Mount Carmel Road itself. A lot of the residents there are actually pretty excited to have a way to get out on the road and not feel threatened from all the traffic, whenever it's busy, all the truck traffic. So even though it seems kind of contrary, most of the people are looking forward to having good access, to their development, because some of the roads are challenging inside Mount Carmel itself. So we think we're kind of solving problems and hopefully not creating new ones. But we're excited, and we're here to answer any questions you guys might have.
Can we go back to the product slide? I need to visualize. Which of these fits on that 35?
Lower left.
Okay.
And I think the bottom right might too. Yeah, that's a 2-story version, and then one's a 1-story version.
So what's the price point that you're talking about, these 35-foot lots? What's your guess?
It's still in the high 300s. That would be the very start of it.
Okay.
Unfortunately, no matter how we do this, getting homes into that's not even.
Right. Nope, I get it. That's
anymore.
actually a lower price than we've heard. So
Well, I mean, it's gonna be there's a way to do some of the units at a high 300s.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that there are going to be that many that come out that way just because of what
Yeah.
people are looking for in housing. It's just hard to get there.
So I really like the fact that these are smaller homes, 2-car garages, something that is more considered a starter home size, right?
Yep.
I aesthetically do not love the left-hand corner. I think that they are.
Okay, let's remember we're doing the preliminary.
I know,
plan
but I'm
zoning
going
tonight.
to. I have plenty of things on my list here, but Eric brought up the pictures, so I just thought I'd put in my 2 cents that I love the fact that we're having a smaller footprint and a smaller home. That looks like that.
You don't have to buy it. Okay, what else
I
is on
don't
your
have
list,
to buy it, but
Chris?
other people do, and I think that we need to have homes that are aesthetically pleasing in Carver as well. So my other things that I have to talk about. So I think we all know I'm not a huge fan of the 5-foot setbacks. But with this explanation and seeing what these homes are kind of meant to be, I think that I can make peace with that on this. My one question though with these smaller ones, especially the 35, but even to the 40, is because they do have such small side yards. And can we go back? What is the front yard setback on those?
25 feet.
Okay. It seems that's the front yard.
Mhm.
Okay. And then the backyard is 20.
20. Yep.
There isn't a park how far do we guess that park is away? Those are really small lots. If we're looking at probably small starting families, is my guess. Possibly. I mean, anyone, of course, can empty nesters could have one also, but it doesn't seem like there's a lot of room to have a pet, have your kids be outside. Like, it just seems really packed in tight even behind the house?
So the park is slated to be in this general location here.
Just further south. From
Oh.
there.
Is it this one?
Yeah, right
This
below the
one.
red stuff. Yeah, right there.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yep.
So, something to know. Yeah, there are 2 pocket parks in phase 1, and then the larger park would be served for those folks via a trail system. So, a couple things to note, but comment well heard.
So, I mean, when we're looking at this, is that acceptable to us, is to have that small of a backyard? I mean, as a development that's going in, I mean, are we okay as a council with that, as a staff with that? Again, I like the smaller houses, I like the smaller footprints, it just seems really small. If you're looking at the size, like the length of the house, and then to think about having even any green space out back.
I'm okay with it just because of the variation in product. And this is only one phase. So we're not talking about an entire development of 35-foot lots. This is just one piece that offers a product that, you know, might come in at a price point that gets somebody to Carver. So I'm okay with that. That is the buyer's choice.
I
That's
have a
my
question,
opinion.
Aaron. If this were a townhome, how much backyard would they have?
About the same, if not less.
If not less.
So keeping in mind that this is a medium density and so 2 years ago, 3 years ago, this would have been townhomes. I'm okay with the lots the way that they are. This is replacing a standard townhome. I'm thinking of it as if it were detached townhomes.
And I'm okay with it as well. I think what we have to keep in mind is Casey and Lennar and M&I have done all their market research and they know what will sell. I think you've had some similar concerns about setbacks in other communities, and there aren't houses and houses and houses that remain vacant in other MI or other Lennar developments. It might not be for you, it might not be for me. We both like to get our hands dirty and do yard work and garden, but there are dozens of folks who will see this and think this is my first home, this is my last home, wherever they are on the spectrum of home buying, and will love it and will be happy Carver residents like everybody else.
Yeah, see, I don't know, Gloria, but thinks that visualizing it as if it were a townhome and that it might have actually a smaller rear yard setback, that feels a little bit better. And I would rather see this than townhomes as well, right? I think the shared wall space is not always everyone's forte. I think having this space. I have another question. When these are slab on grade, and I worry a little bit about weather issues, have you run across any comments from planning commission or from other developers or developments or cities or anything that talk about the slab on grade?
So the planning commission, Sherry brought it up as a comment. It's not currently a requirement anywhere that we provide storm shelters. So thinking about how many folks might be in the space too, like what would a facility look like that could offer safe space if it were a separate storm shelter? But I would say the guidance is usually an interior room. It's usually a bathroom in the center of the house, or if someone wants to think about it further, there are options where you can build out space in a garage or like in a crawl space that you could create a storm shelter independently in your space.
By our code ordinances, all those things, if you wanted to build something underneath your house, you could come in and apply to have that to do that kind of work?
If it met the building code, and if it worked with the home model, like some of these homes I suspect will have crawl space underneath them. I would say it's not going to be an extravagant space that you could stand up in.
Oh, sure.
But if you wanted to work in some type of secure room somewhere in your garage, I think that could work.
I'm talking about, but underground? If you
Um,
wanted to secure something and have it engineered and built under there,
I know that that's how they can work in other places. I don't know a direct application in these homes specifically.
okay, sure.
Can I ask another question about that
yeah.
specifically? So is there, and I was surprised to learn this when we talked about it before, there's no requirement for a safe room. I've seen that, where you've got like a 6-inch wall, a reinforced door. Is that an option for these homes to have a closet that's considered a safe room?
I don't believe that's built into their standard design platform
Okay.
through Lennar. I have seen other communities where they put in place like a requirement like that
Yeah.
before.
It's usually a closet or a pantry. It
Right,
just
right.
has 6-inch walls and a stronger door.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
a
I've
roof.
seen cities adopt
Yeah.
things like that within a couple of years. Basically, that adds about $12,000 to the cost of the house. It might not sound like it does, but when you do it and you do it
Okay.
the right way, pretty soon you're doing all sorts of different things, and it cumulatively just changes things and the design more than anything. But I've seen other communities do it, and then generally after a couple of years they remove that requirement because it was kind of limiting the affordability aspect that they were aiming for the housing type. But I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm not an expert. I'm not a home builder.
It did come up in planning commission, and just while we're on it, I also want to reiterate the concern. That's this development, this phase 1 has 203 out of 273 homes are slab on grade. That means 203 out of 273 homes do not have storm shelter built into their home. I'm concerned about it in general, slab on grade. Grew up in Tornado Alley. You can take the girl out of Tornado Alley. You can't take Tornado Alley out of the girl. I'm less concerned about it in communities like the one I live in because we have mixed housing. We have some houses that have walkout, lookout basements. We have some houses that have slab on grade. We have an understanding in our neighborhood when a storm happens. If you are concerned and you want to shelter in place in somewhere that's safe, neighbors have opened their doors to other neighbors. I'm more concerned about it in a community like this where there are no homes that these people can shelter in. That's just my concern.
Yeah, and Kayla, I appreciate the fact that your neighborhood is friendly and willing to
Yeah.
take people in, but we can't, account
We can't
for
assume that in every
every
neighborhood.
neighborhood. So
And I'm
not-
just saying it's not even a possibility in a neighborhood
Right.
like this.
So this isn't, it's not a deal breaker for me on this
No.
development, but it is concerning when you see this many slab on grades coming in at one time, because I would hope that nothing would ever happen, but if it did, I mean,
We saw a funnel cloud in Waconia over the weekend.
Did you have a layout of the homes? Was there a slide that showed the layout?
So there isn't even an internal, maybe a walk-in closet.
Yeah, I'd
But
say
there's
that.
a bathroom.
It's not internal, it's got an external wall.
Correct. It's right. But when the houses are 5 feet apart from one another, there's a little bit of closeness there. I think maybe an alternative viewpoint, and it doesn't have anything to do with the safety, but Zach and I will often ride our bikes through and look for homes that are universal design and slab on grade and no stairs as we think about our aging parents. And I think for those reasons and many others that this will be really desirable. And I think walk-in closet, I think that's the internal room right there in that first one.
There isn't anything in the second. I'm just saying from a safety perspective, there's not anything in the second one.
yeah. So, okay. I have a question about the cul-de-sac. Okay. I love a cul-de-sac, but if we do not learn from our mistakes, we are bound to repeat them. Lorraine Court is our mistake. I think we know we have a cul-de-sac there that does not have full car lengths between driveways. They also stuck a trail in there and the mailbox cluster. So there's parking issues on that cul-de-sac are a real issue. So I really need to be reassured and told that there is between every one of these, there is a full car length between them, because 11 through 16 doesn't appear necessarily, at least between 11, 12, and 15, 16.
I don't think there ever will be on the back of a cul-de-sac.
There certainly can be if we have them build it correctly, because we have dealt with parking issues, parking calls, neighbor issues on a very specific cul-de-sac that was put in. And unfortunately, the way it was put in, especially between like the lots 11 through 16, there's not enough parking spaces, and people people have guests over or whatever it might be, and they park in the street, and if there is not one stall between, where are they supposed to go?
So those are the building paths that they're showing, right? So there could be.
If you go to the illustrative one, if you wouldn't mind. If you can zoom in.
On the bottom cul-de-sac.
There we go. Can you zoom in at all more, or is that as far as you can? Okay. So when I'm zoomed down on mine, when I'm looking at it, so this one is a really big sticking point for me because I think we're doing a disservice to the future neighborhood there because we've already seen the complaints, we've already dealt with them, and one that we've already done, and it has been nothing but issues. Parking.
I have a different view of it.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable with what's in this concept of this plan. Definitely Lorraine Court. We have residents who are now long-term residents, and that's such a
Who are not,
who've been residents
Yes,
for a long
are
time.
Okay.
And I might say that might pronounce it wrong, but anomaly. I feel like that cul-de-sac's a bit of a anomaly because I don't see it or hear about it as much on other cul-de-sacs. So I feel like it's just a small percentage. It's unfortunate, but just there's a unique story in that neighborhood and in so many of those homes. And I live within walking distance, so it's a little different. But like as far as how large their family is, what their occupations are, that are playing into the dynamics.
I've also personally parked up there,
Mhm.
and there are numerous ones that are not long enough to fit a car length. It's
And then those people shouldn't park there then. They need to either double up in the driveway or go for a longer walk.
right, but then it just pushes it. It just keeps pushing it and pushing it down. So all you're going to do is push it down the street and push it, overflow it into the next ones in front of the next homes. So you'd be fine on your cul-de-sac or on your street having all the cul-de-sac now coming parked directly in front of your house. You'd be okay with that. That's fine with you.
Only because that's the only option. Like, I don't think.
So just imagine, Lori, if your home on your quiet street, now all the parking was pushed out and now it's all right in front of your street and you're okay, you'd be just fine.
Yeah, like if that's, even though that might happen with the plan, I wouldn't adjust the plan just because that I would be annoyed and inconvenienced by that.
Chrissy, I don't know that I'm hearing anybody else quick to raise their hands about concerns about this.
Okay.
Do another item.
Yes, I do have another one. So the HOA, well, when the calls come in, you all field them. It won't be my deal. The HOA size. So is that HOA going to cover just these like phase sections, or will the HOA cover it as a whole?
Yeah, the HOA is going to be a master HOA for the whole development. It's going to cover primarily landscaping, a few of the pocket parks. The individual, in some areas, there might be a sub-association where they decide, hey, we're gonna all go together on trash and maybe snow removal or something like that, or grass. I don't believe that's gonna happen in phase one at all, but in general, the HOA is here just to maintain monument signs, little pocket parks, that vegetation along the major collector roads. That's what the HOA is there
Okay.
for.
So Aaron, I have a question. So when we look at like the Carver Bluffs, that's all one large HOA, right? Or there's sections.
No,
There
there's
are
sections.
sections that are.
There's sections not in an HOA, so it's little pockets together.
You can have not HOA, you're in the HOA, and on the other side, not HOA.
Okay.
And it's
But the
haphazard.
HOA itself, for anyone who is in the HOA, it's all the same HOA?
there are two.
Two? Okay. My only concern is if it's gonna be one HOA and you're gonna have this many houses across, if you're trying to get signatures on something or trying to get a full approval, which we also know from history from the Bluffs, it becomes nearly impossible because it's so many. So I don't know if there is a resolve to having smaller sections of HOA rather than one overarching one.
There's different kinds of HOAs. There's HOAs that are there to control the architectural design of homes, that are there to get involved in whether you have a shed in your backyard or whether or not you can have brick on your front of your house or not have brick, that kind of stuff. We're not even proposing an HOA that's involved in any of that,
Okay.
period. It's literally there for the common space only, common
Okay.
space maintenance. And I think, like I said, it's not that maybe M&I decides to have for that top section up there, maybe they decide they want to do HOA there because they want to do grass and snow. And then the HOA might become different, but it'll literally be just that neighborhood's HOA. It won't
Okay.
be part of the master HOA.
Okay.
So there's, like I said, there's different kinds of HOAs. In this one, there's not a plan to have an HOA that's involved in the, like, I know what you're talking about when you want to do an amendment to an HOA.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, we were trying to set up for the whole sole purpose to avoid what you're talking about, that it's not involved in whether or not you can have 2 dogs or 1 dog and the weight of the dog and all the crazy stuff that people do
Right.
in their HOAs, which I've watched many times over the years. We're trying to simplify it so it's not something that people even want to do that kind of stuff because it doesn't have any power.
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense.
Another piece that I want to bring up is that I wouldn't want a certain small subset of people to feel ownership over a specific use. So if you said that there are, in phase 1, there's 4 HOAs, but one of the HOAs is responsible for the pocket park, I wouldn't want folks to be out there saying, you can't come in here and use this park because I pay
Sure.
for it and you're not treating it kindly enough and that's going to be in my pocketbook. So I think having it be this entire project swath gets rid of some of that narrative to say, you can't probably keep track of 276 homes, so people are going to use the park, but there's less ownership over it.
Okay, that's good. Okay. That is great to hear. But for the HOA, like, so this won't include like your garbage service. I mean, that's still going to be the homeowner's
Right.
choice stuff. Okay.
That's the plan.
Okay.
I mean, we don't see a reason for that.
Okay. That is helpful. Aaron, I just have one question for you for the future. What is an age restricted housing development?
They are very popular right now.
Yay.
So like Del Webb is the closest.
Easy.
Del Webb is the closest version of it in Chaska. So it's a high amenity space. So there's typically community spaces like a clubhouse. It feels a little bit resorty where sometimes they can use different types of vehicles on the streets.
Okay.
So it's 55 or better for the person that's buying the home. You wouldn't be restricted probably for the other folks that might be in your home, but yeah, they typically want to be kind of private. So they're tucked on the north side of the Summerfield area. So it's a high amenity space
Okay.
for people that are interested in buying into that community.
Okay. So by the time it's built, I can live there according.
I wasn't going to out you, but here we are.
Okay, so, but the lots seem to be like they're going to be a little bit bigger. Is that normal? Is that typical? Because I'm just for that type of.
That area of the plan is to have multiple different product types in there.
Okay.
So kind of like what, on one of the slides, they showed like just that little narrow house. There might be some of those for people
Okay.
who are looking for a slab. There might be some that have walkout basements. There might be some that have 2 stories. It's kind of uncommon in that neighborhood to see 2 stories.
Okay.
But it's usually, the reason why they call it age restricted is mainly the housing type is just kind of fits better
Okay.
for an older age group. Plus, it's a community within the community. So if Summerfield is a big community, this is like a little subsection of the community specifically designed for that age group. The amenity center will have all sorts of different stuff and community activities that are focused on that age demographic. So that way the people there are all, they pay a much higher HOA fee into that $400 or $500 a month category.
Yep.
For access to a clubhouse that has a pool in it and that has, a fitness center right there, so they don't have to go traveling and they can walk to it.
Okay.
And then generally the way the homes are sold is more about the amenity package
Sure.
than anything else, because your sense of community is just at a higher level there than anywhere else.
Okay. Are they generally gated? Like,
No, I would say it's
Not
going to
Minnesota.
feel similar to that, but it won't physically be gated.
okay. Okay. All right. That's all I had. Thank you.
Let's go next. Lori?
Yes, I have two things, I think. I hadn't commented yet on the number of lots, which I'm very comfortable with, the 35 foot length lots. I think that was just like 40 of the slab and grade, so I have no concerns there. Pocket Park, either I never asked what it was, or it's the first time I've seen it. So maybe not for today, but in the future, I'd like to see pictures or examples. I don't know. I don't think we have any in Carver.
We do.
You know, that's my question too.
I
How
kind of
will
think like
that be
Overlook
programmed?
Park, or is it just like one bench?
No.
No, so like the playground in Hawthorne Ridge is an HOA maintained
Okay.
facility. There's one in the Bluffs that is an HOA facility. I think those are the two that we have in town.
So would these pocket parks be like that, where they'd have some type of apparatus for children to climb on?
Or a playground.
Or a playground.
Can you do one that we can see a little?
Yeah, or
bit, so you
if,
kind
if any of your other projects have existing
Yeah, I mean,
pocket parks.
there's two pocket
Or
parks
is it
here.
like a
There's-
bird watching area?
You see where it says pocket park kind of up in the middle, right there?
Okay.
You know, one we kind of envision to be more of just like the one down on the bottom left is more of just an open space with maybe a gazebo and things like that, and some
Okay.
fire pits. Something, not fire pits, but maybe cookouts or whatever kind of thing for the neighborhood, with some area for kids to just throw a football around or something like that. The pocket park up on top is where we anticipate if we were gonna do, maybe a small play structure or something like she's talking about. And that's, the area is not gigantic. So it's mostly to create an open space, kind of, I can't remember which person was kind of concerned about that, for kids to go out and play in.
Okay.
It's not always developed, like we did one once before in a project, and everybody wanted it left woods, and all we had was the trail cutting through it, and it ended up being woods because it created some privacy inside that area. But then, then you have the woods, so it's a different, everybody has a trade-off
Okay.
on these things. But there's not a specific great big plan for the pocket parks. They're mostly just to be open space for the kids to play in. I mean, that's how we kind of looked at it.
Thank you.
Yep.
That it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was really thinking I was going to come up with another question or something, but just those two.
Eric?
This is nitpicky. These kind of things make me nervous, these little islands here. I have this in my street, and if somebody parks right there, no emergency vehicles getting by. Are we making this wide enough so we've taken that into consideration? All right.
20-foot face to face.
We've learned from a previous mistake.
Okay. All right. Good
Yep,
enough.
and Andrew and his team have voiced the same concern for plowing and such, so
Right.
we'll make sure that's addressed. Thank you.
So nitpicky.
That's your
Is
own
that
thing?
needed? Is that little thing needed?
Well,
I mean,
that's usually like where kids wait for the bus and stuff like that, so I get that. Then there's
Is it,
the beautification
They get
aspect
something
to
for
it.
their money for the HOA. Then.
Yeah.
the
It's a
intention is to put
common
little
shared
monument sign on,
space.
if it means anything.
Say it again?
The intention is to put like little neighborhood monument signs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you hadn't kind of figured out from the design, the idea is to create neighborhoods inside the neighborhood again. So the one we're looking at right now, there's an entrance, kind of the north and the south entrance there. And there'd be some type of like monument sign sitting inside that would identify it. Let's just say we're calling it Park Grove or something like that. And that section would be called Park Grove, so everybody kind of knows, hey, that's the Park Grove neighborhood. When you drive by, there's Park Grove, because you see the sign that says Park Grove, and then people pull into that neighborhood. And it creates like a sense of place when you live there. Something that kind of usually disappears after the marketing signs go away. And here it would be maintained. So anything that the intention with the overall project was, when it comes off the main road, the big roads, you'll see those kind of entrances for the neighborhoods. So we have those kind of in whatever places that connect to the main roads. You won't see them inside the neighborhood for each street or anything like that.
Well, as long as Andrew and Aaron have ensured that emergency vehicles get by parked cars in the winter, I'm fine. Thanks.
Kel?
My comments were about the concern with safety and slab on grade. Otherwise, given that the bulk of this is replacing attached townhomes, I'm okay with the variances that are being requested.
Right. I had questions about the pocket parks that I think Lori already asked. My one question is on the southernmost, the southwestern pocket park. Is that like a little trail section that Half Moon's in there?
That's, I'll be honest, that's a little conceptual.
Okay.
I mean, the idea was just to allow people to peel off and come sit there at the gazebo and a couple benches kind of thing.
Cool. Okay. Let's see. It looks like at this point, and for a lot of the phases, there's just going to be the one entry and exit, which will be the roundabout.
And that,
What would be the most helpful version of it?
well, if you look at this master plan on the left-hand side of the screen,
Mhm.
there'll be another roundabout that kind of hits when that road connects down to Maplewood
Okay.
in the future. And then it kind of goes down at an angle. You don't really see it because it cuts off on the page. But that'll be, we plan to build that along with phase two.
The street that's more diagonal.
Yes,
The very far
and it'll cut
south?
back
Okay.
over to 41.
Okay.
So this is Maplewood
Okay.
here too, for some bearings of that location.
Right.
But I would imagine there too, we'll try to hold folks at bay and keep them off Maplewood Road for
Yeah,
as
they
long
won't,
as we can.
Maplewood Road in that brown section right there will disappear. So maybe can you zoom in? Is it possible to
Oh,
zoom in? on that?
the east-west Maplewood Road
Yes.
goes away? Okay.
Other one?
To the left. Yeah, there we go. Or maybe it won't let you load it.
Do you want that one?
Yes, there we go. So that Maplewood Road is only there now, but once we build that diagonal road that kind of connects out to 41,
Okay.
Maplewood for that brown section, that'll just be one big outlot.
Just that stretch of Maplewood Road.
Will
'Cause there's
disappear.
still
So none of the
residents
project
there.
will be connecting into that area.
Okay. Okay.
And eventually, someday, the county road may, when it gets further improved from the roundabout that we're putting in now, some of those access points might be changed to right-ins, right-outs, or
Sure.
deleted, or
Okay.
whatever. And then those people might actually be coming through streets that we provide through development.
Okay. But that's all part of phase two, so that will be sooner rather than later.
Yeah, that road connection was all part of our plan to get it done in phase two.
Okay, fantastic. I love the housing variety. I think we've all had our own comments on this, but I think that this is a type of house that we haven't seen in Carver yet, with kind of the really the smaller sized kind of standalone townhome. So I'm excited to see that. I didn't see any, but are there any private streets in this development? Fantastic. The trails will be city maintained?
Correct.
Okay.
Except for some spaces that move between like the pocket parks, and I suspect we'll work through that.
Okay. All right, that's all I have.
I have one more question. You brought up the lower pocket park. So Erin, when I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at the lots, so we've got 5, 6, and 24, 25. Where if you can zoom in a little bit on that, where that comes to that little point, does it make sense to extend those lots? Yeah, can you make that any bigger? Can you
No.
enlarge it at all? Oh, can you move the hand? Thanks. Just because there's like these little teeny pieces in here that we're gonna have to like maintain. Does it make sense to just touch those lots completely, like 24 and 6?
It's association gonna maintain those.
Okay.
Sometimes when you see the park, it's one of the things we have to hit open space requirements by.
Yep.
So you have to, if you,
So this is your square footage you need?
you can't just fill it in. You
Yep.
can't just fill it in with lots. So
Okay.
trust me, I buy into what you're saying, but.
Okay. Because there's just a funny little triangle there between 24 and 6 that seems rather unnecessary.
Right. I understand what you're
But
saying.
you need that.
They need those three.
It's all about
Yeah,
those-
you need 4 feet.
I don't have the calculation in front of me, but trust me, there's a lot of thought that goes into that little square inch there.
Okay, that's all I had then. Thanks.
All right, we have a few motions we need to do at this point, if we're ready.
Okay, I'll start. I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 04-2026, rezoning property to R-2 PRD to accommodate a subdivision proposed to be called Summerfield.
Motion by Pershman,
Second?
second by Pasco. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 136-26, approving preliminary plat for the first phase of a residential development to be known as Summerfield by Summergate.
Motion by Sarah,
Second.
second by Pershman. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
I will make a motion to enter into an early start agreement by and between the City of Carver and Tollefson Holdings LLC regarding Summerfield.
And I will second that just to get in here. We've got a motion by Pasco and a second by Johnson. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Congratulations, Casey.
Thanks for all of your information and explanations.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
All right. Let's see. We are going to revert to one item that we didn't get to during the work session. For those watching at home, this is kind of the kitchen table conversation, the more casual talks that we have during our time here. Let's see. We are going to have a discussion on the joint city council and planning commission session. Ms. Smith.
Thank you. Recap of the meeting that I think it was a fun meeting. Sorry. So, it was great to get the planning commission and city council together.
Do we get to vote on that?
No Mentimeter
Did we have
tonight.
fun?
Yes.
Vote up, vote down.
Yeah. That was a really cool tool.
Did you
Thank
enjoy me being bossy, saying like you cannot talk right now?
I didn't see it that
It
way.
was a little.
There was one that was a little intense. So the purpose of that meeting was to do a check-in on some work that's coming up at a planning commission and city council level, both private development and city-led. So 3 topics that we covered pretty extensively were the comp plan, parks planning, and then zoning code work. So reverting back to work session, the goal tonight that we're looking for is to affirm information shared and confirm work plan for staff. So saying essentially, let's get to it on some of the stuff we talked about on June 8th.
Full steam ahead.
Yeah, full steam ahead. So just a quick overview of the things we talked about. The 2050 comprehensive plan. During that meeting, we coined it to be full steam ahead. The comprehensive plan will be from June 2026 to June 2028. And thinking about the number of folks that will be coming to Carver as a resident in that time frame is 11,422. So continuing to plan for a lot of growth, a lot of space. We're going to start with our current draft. It's generally worked really well. We haven't seen a ton of comp plan amendments, and the ones that have come through have typically been logical enough that they work their way through the system. But that will be our place to start. I will say a focus that I personally have for this next version of the comp plan is having it look different for the end user. So having it be more applicable, more digestible, more understandable for a resident that might not know what we do in this room 2 Mondays a month, but just be able to take some information and at least have an idea of the things that we're working on. Some discussion we had was about our growth area. So on the screen now is the area that's covered in the 2040 comprehensive plan. So on the left was pre-annexation of the Enclave and Summerfield. So you can see on the right, the dash line extends further west. We had a pretty lengthy discussion about our growth area. Is it a space where we could engage with the township to say, what if our growth area went west of 43? So we've historically been at 43, except for the area adjacent to 212. As you can see, it's circled on the right side of the map. As we also had discussions about increased space for commercial and industrial development, I think this corridor becomes really important. And I think what's west of this corridor becomes really important. We often hear that the development that we see is benefiting Chaska because we're their westerly neighbor. They can pull us to some of their community features. What would that look like long-term for us to continue pulling folks west? So I had a good discussion about what it would look like potentially to engage with the township to see if they're interested in revising our orderly annexation agreement to move west of 43. Generally very supported during that discussion. A really rough drawing of what I put together for developable space that could happen is that dashed line in red. So potentially starting to think about some additional spaces in our comprehensive plan. Should the township be open to the discussion about amending the orderly annexation agreement to include property west of 43. Another comp plan piece is that, like Casey mentioned, the Met Council has changed their stance on some of the density requirements. So not only are they being really specific about what parcel has what density, the density is also increased. So the minimum of our previous comp plan was 3 units per acre. The version this round will be 3.5 units per acre. Our current plan meets that average, so the density doesn't feel scary. I've had a couple of folks in neighboring communities say like, oh, what are you going to do? And it's like, nothing, keep going. It's fine. So in some spaces, in some communities, that's a really drastic change for them. But some spaces that we've committed to higher density, medium density, that checks the box right now. If we re-guide some of that property, we'll need to think about it elsewhere. So some continued discussion, should we move forward with additional commercial industrial where some of that medium and higher density housing might be, but typically that works as a nice buffer between a commercial user and low density residential. So anticipating some changes along major corridors. So where we meet Victoria on the north side, and then that 212 corridor where we're seeing a lot of action, hoping to pull some more commercial and industrial property along the 212 corridor. So big things, density does not feel scary. We likely need some additional commercial space. We're hitting our limit right now in Carver Commons, which is our kind of bread and butter spot right now, but that will be built out soon. Land uses to track with property lines, like Casey alluded to again, that the Met Council is being tricky about how they are calculating density. So in general, when we can, I think the best advice is to track different land uses with property lines. So it's not an arbitrary line down a square property that could get us into some trouble if they need to be flip-flopped. Growth area west of 43, a one-pager for important sections so folks can understand the plan a little bit more. Parks Master Plan will get a reboot, and then looking for a really robust engagement plan with input ID, which will be an online presence where folks can provide information throughout the plan. So a question to the group was, do you support additional commercial guidance? And again, overwhelmingly, yes. So we'll start that work with the next version of the comp plan.
Under kitchen table conversation, Aaron, would you mind just sharing with the council how the park dedication plan and fee aligned with the Parks Master Plan and kind of reconciling that? I know we talked about, or the mayor and I talked about parks planning earlier today, and I think this is maybe an opportunity to bring the whole council in alignment on that topic.
Yeah, thank you. Somebody may have had a question about that earlier today.
So Dave is probably going to roll his eyes as we talk about Larry Harris and the bygone
Dave
era.
ever rolls his eyes.
Internally.
I don't think
No, now that he's being
So during our previous version of the comprehensive plan, we did the Parks Master Plan. And part of that was determining the nexus of our park dedication cost. So what we did is we found search areas for parks, added up the total cost that we thought they would be, divided it by the land use, the number of units, and then spread that across residential spaces, commercial spaces, industrial spaces, based on residential equivalent units. So it was technical. That breakdown was by percentage of the different housing types, the different commercial spaces, the different industrial spaces. So it was a heavy lift, but it's worked well. Communities come under fire a lot for park dedication when it feels arbitrary or capricious, which Larry would appreciate that I've used that word in a council meeting tonight. So if it's something that feels like the city is choosing for each project differently, what the value of their park dedication needs to be, that can get them in tricky spots pretty quickly with national builders. Some communities do it like a percentage of land must be dedicated, but it just gets tricky if it's a park that's smaller, if it's a heavy user that you want to include there. So though it's a tricky equation, at the end of the day, I think it functions well. It's easy to have a conversation with a developer to say, these are the park projects we're planning, and this is how much we thought they would cost. So this is the breakdown of the amount of park dedication that you would see. We've increased that number each year for inflation, so we've been seeing that number increase. But to overhaul the park dedication number, we need to take a broader look at the parks we have planned in the comp plan area. So thinking through some of those, it's the downtown park, it's the Summerfield Park, it's parks in our growth area, like in our previous plan, like Gaystock Lake is a park search area because we'll have a lake in town for the first time. What does that look like? So it's engaging in some higher level planning to determine where we think parks might be, what they might be used for, and how much we think they'll cost. So we wouldn't be able to effectively go in and just update one of the parks, like the cost of it, without working through the entire Parks Master Plan. So Brent and I talked a little bit today, like if that is something the City Council wants to prioritize, if that wants to be one of the first pieces of the comp plan that we work on, that absolutely could be an option. We could formally adopt it as a city before we submit it to the Met Council. If I think it'll meet the requirements of the Met Council, it could be a standalone document for a while. That's how it's operated now. There's a required parks and trails section in the comp plan. Ours right now is very slim, but it references the Parks Master Plan throughout. So it's a standalone document that's referenced heavily. So we could think through what that would look like. So if it's important that we start collecting additional park dedication, it just is a bigger undertaking than just going in and saying, we need $1,000 per unit more, just so we can make sure that we have that nexus established.
which is actually really important. I mean, I would do the opposite of roll my eyes about that kind of a thing, because it's important when
Cheering?
it comes to park dedication, especially for a growing community. You may get questions from developers about why is this your number and how can you justify it? And there's language in the subdivision statute about the nexus that, Aaron talks about, and I think was the basis for your current plan, which is really helpful. And it also provides guidance for, which areas we would want to require a trail, or which areas we might want a larger park when we're asking for developers to incorporate things into a large development. So I agree with everything that she said, and think it's very important if the council is looking to change park dedication and those numbers. I think that's really the only way to do it, frankly, is to have it backed by a totally, use Aaron's word, rebooted Parks Master Plan that provides that justification. So I just wanted to go on the record to say that. It's important.
Thank you. If the question is, do we want to prioritize this and tackle it first in the comprehensive planning process, my vote would be yes. I just don't want to get to a point where we're like, oh, we are 100% built out, but we only have money for 60% of what's in our parks plan, or whatever that is. I just don't want to run out of money because we didn't plan appropriately. So I don't know if anybody feels any differently or wants to opine.
I agree, especially with the big developments going in. Okay, we talked about some general goals for the comp plan, so full steam ahead. Some really great feedback, looking for more life cycle housing, which is something you talk about often in this room. Staying broad, keeping small town feel, which is the plight of probably all of our lives collectively in local government. It's like, what does that mean to people? How can we make sure it stays? What does that look like for new folks coming in? But also a focus on industrial, commercial, and additional commercial and industrial space. So some really good feedback that will start to frame out what the comp plan looks like. We also heard that in-person engagement is more likely to happen in conjunction with another event. So much to my chagrin, no one said that they wanted to come to a comp plan specific meeting. But if we were at the fire department open house where you already are eating a hot dog, you'll talk to me then. So that was good feedback. We expected that to happen. And then the fact that online engagement will be important. So a good foray is that we've just talked a little bit about parks. So some information that we talked about, new parks, and then parks that we have coming in the developments that we're seeing. So new parks are driven by development and paid with park dedication. Things that we're coming up on now, Creekside was about $400,000 for the city. We had some fantastic grant money that contributed to that park as well. The underpass in Summerfield, way less glamorous, is the undergrounding of utility work downtown with the levee project to prep for the landing. So getting rid of overhead utilities downtown that will allow that park to develop. Our current park dedication balance is low after Creekside, but we're obviously seeing parks come in right now, or projects come in, Summerfield and the Enclave. Both phase 1 portions of those projects will be cash with a park project coming in a future phase. And then we also have city-driven projects. So the landing would be impacted if we wanted to say that there are 15 park uses in the Enclave. That would obviously mean less cash collection. If D.R. Horton is building out a very large, extensive park in the Enclave, we would not collect cash because we would spend all of the money that we would use in that park specifically. So we talked a little bit about what's the balance between a park in the Enclave, a park in Summerfield, but then knowing that we're working towards some of these bigger projects, the underpass in Summerfield and the landing being 2 top priorities right now. I got these numbers from Bolton and Mink, which were really helpful and has helped kind of my framing as we're thinking about park dedication, is that when you think through different park types, they obviously have very different requirements for funding per acre. So a basic park like Creekside is about $300,000 per acre. Moderate like Ironwood is between 4 and 8. And then heavy like the landing is between $800,000 and $3 million per acre. Some feedback that we recently got from D.R. Horton, the Enclave team, is that they paid $95,000-ish dollars per acre. So thinking through that, as we start to think what the value of an acre is, as we start working with that park dedication number, I think about it a lot about like how many units will fund 1 acre of park, thinking through that balance. So right now our park dedication number is $4,700 collected at final plat per unit. And the Enclave, if we took cash only, would be about $2.4 million.
My goal, which I have not thought through, I haven't thought through the details, is that we take half-ish of that in cash so we can create a more robust park dedication cash balance for us for some of those projects that are coming up, but also offer some park features in the enclave. I don't know how that will shake out. We haven't thought about it, but just keeping like a general pulse on that to say, we probably don't want to blow $2.4 million in the enclave when we have some future projects coming up, knowing some commitments that we have to other things.
Aaron, the 4,700 per unit with our peer cities, have you looked at that? Like, how are we falling?
I'd say we're about smack dab in the middle.
Okay.
Developers will come in and tell you it's so high and we're the highest in the area, but I think they say that to everyone.
Sure.
But in general, I would say we're pretty close to the center
Okay.
of the
Can
group.
you tell me what you think are the higher, the lowest, if you remember?
Victoria is higher than we are. I know that some cities that are west of us are also higher. So folks that aren't seeing as much development are needing to collect more to be able to fund any projects. So I would say folks that are west of us are typically going to be higher than where we're at right now.
On our peer cities, who might be less than us? Like,
Cities that are fully built, so parks, like Chaska is not funding a ton of brand new parks.
Right.
They are maintaining the parks that they have. You can't use park dedication for that. So them Chaska bringing in a ton of money for park dedication is kind of moot because it has to be
sure.
used
But
for
like of
new
our peer
projects.
city group of the ones that are the similar size to us, not just in the same county. I'm asking you off the fly when if you
Yeah.
don't know the answer, is it something that you could just find out?
Mhm, for
and
sure.
find out? Okay.
So thinking through that number, what it looks like long term with that 2.4 million coming in with the enclave specifically. And then if you could add one park feature, what would it be? Sledding hill, town ball facility, large open grassy area. Cricket was a conversation that I hadn't thought about, but with a growing and changing population, there could be different sport options offered in Carver. And then we talk often about open spaces versus fully programmed. So some things that we hear fairly often from both the Planning Commission and City Council. Then we talked about the Enclave Park specifically. So the sledding hill gets checked here.
Courtney, were you there?
Yeah.
That was. We should just put that one, just put your initials on it.
So this happens very naturally in that park space. It's a huge hill. It's very wide, so offers a great sledding location, but also adding some things that keep that small town feel. It's like the sled shed, which is on the top where you can take a sled, leave a sled, have folks be able to use it interchangeably. And then thinking through a play structure. I'm not advocating for that large of a park in the center, but that park is talked about a lot right now because it's a different park use with that strange octopus. So is there a feature that we could add to a playground? Not at that scale, but could get folks excited about it, get them coming to a park location in the enclave specifically.
Where is that? Is that in Minnesota?
It's in Apple Valley.
It's big in the mom circles right now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's why.
I'm
And then-
thinking, like the Chutes and Ladders Park.
Yeah.
Like
Exactly.
that was
Hitting some of the high notes that folks were looking for again are some different park features, some more reflection space. There's this area in the enclave that we identified really early on our first tour that there is it's like a finger of like old growth trees and natural resources. That could be a butterfly pollinator garden with some public art. So on the top are peace poles, and then bottom is an example from Michigan of some examples of what public art could look like. So we reviewed that information. I asked, how do you feel about it? Overwhelmingly, people were good with the design of the park. Nothing major coming out to say we need to do XYZ here instead. So that would be the general location, barring any conversation tonight, that will move forward with DR Horton in the enclave. The next conversation we had was the Summerfield Park. So this is what's included in the Parks Master Plan, again, developed in 2018. But as we start to think through it, I think something that we need to have a discussion on at a staff level, Planning Commission, and City Council level, knowing how expensive this park could be with some priorities that we have outside of the specific parks. I also personally think that a stadium field is great for a certain number of users, but it's not a super broad use for most folks. Just knowing the amount of maintenance that they can take and some ownership that folks might have, which is great, but a use that 276 families probably couldn't go use on a daily basis if this was their neighborhood park. So we don't have to make decisions on this specifically tonight, but we talked about it at the workshop, but also just thinking about this maybe differently, what it would look like if the park uses here changed. This park also, it's a lot of parking. So to have a park filled with parking feels strange. So this will be a conversation as we continue to move through. But thinking through the acreage of it, it's a huge park. We can work with Summergate and figure out if we want a smaller area reserved. Right now it's 38-ish acres, and that alone at a $95,000 per acre is $3.6 million. So thinking through what that does to our park dedication dollars, it's 768 lots. Again, tonight you looked at 276. So essentially taking that by 2.5. So phases 1, 2, and 3, if they were that same size, phases 1, 2, and half of 3 would be just for land acquisition for the Summerfield Park. And then a stadium level field limits public park use, heavy investment with low engagement use, high maintenance expectations, and it's a lot of money used for parking. Phasing will be important. We don't have to buy in to this park straight at 38 acres with those uses. So we also talked about investing in the Summerfield Park with a stadium level field would delay the landing, just knowing how much construction would cost for that level of improvement. Which then we talked, you've all seen this slide at a couple of meetings, talking through what this looks like when you come off the Merriam Junction Trail, a pretty significant commitment and project that was done by Scott County, Carver County. So thinking through what this looks like for folks who have maybe never been to Carver, that this probably isn't the warmest welcome for folks. These are some previous versions that we had of the landing. So a large community space, potential stage for performances. I heard overwhelmingly that folks are passionate about good bathrooms here. So beyond what we are typically offering as like a biff or a porta potty right now, and then a water feature adjacent to the levee project.
So is this taking out the community garden?
No. They're to the right. They're behind the
Oh,
church.
I'm sorry. I was looking at this and thinking that was the church building.
And I think that this was developed before the community gardens were in. So it would be our goal. We would commit to keeping the community gardens. They are beloved. They are beautiful. People are taking great care of that space. So. Some examples of what that water space would look like. So understanding that it's the historic downtown, if it's a water tower feature. We talked a lot at that meeting about what a splash pad is versus a water feature that could be used as an art installation or a space for gathering. The different views. So this would be standing a little bit further east. So like Riverside Park would be behind you looking towards Getaway. So this is the Getaway building. Space for food trucks, casual seating, the performance space, and then a community pavilion. The entrance into the park, so pulling some of our common themes from like the JCP project with that monumentation and plantings. This was shown at your strategic plan. Yeah. So when people are saying a splash pad, I think they picture this, and that's would not be our goal. So changing the narrative, but also working through that conversation. If people are saying a splash pad doesn't fit in the downtown, to say it's not going to look like the bright yellows and reds and blues, etc. So this was a version that we talked about again at the strategic plan with the Merriam Junction Trail. A lot of these themes come through in the plan that we have. So looking for some additional feedback if this is the continued direction. So pavilion space, stage space, water feature that could be used throughout the day and night in the downtown. Again, general layout. And then I wanted to revisit the previous version that just mostly featured on the water feature. So throughout the park, we have made some pretty significant changes. So the water feature gets pulled back, becomes less of a focal point for the park with some additional uses. So version 1, version like 8, probably. But just wanting to show the conversation that we've had articulated in the plans. You sure can.
I just want to, Councilmember Conrad wasn't at the session, but one of the things we mentioned, you see the tugboat listed in there, shown in there. We're gonna have to relocate that tugboat as a part of the levee project. And we'll probably place it behind the existing fire station public services building during that interim period. Just, there's some skepticism that what kind of shape that'll be in once that's removed. So just wanted to throw that out there to bring you into the fold with the rest of the group. So
didn't we talk about that being in kind of general disrepair and that it also wasn't necessarily something that serviced this area. It's not really part of the history of the city.
I would say that's accurate.
Okay. So I guess my worry would be that if it is in a deep state of disrepair, I wouldn't prioritize refitting that. It's not as important to the community as, let's say, the water tower is.
I agree with that. And this is like gonna like bounce to a totally separate question. What is the threshold or dollar amount that you as our city administrator can approve of things?
20,000.
Okay. Yeah, if it was even 15,000 to move or do any repairs, I would like the council to be able to discuss it.
Yeah, I if it's in great shape still or decent shape still, awesome. If it's the bottom has fallen out of it, it's fine. I mean, we'll get rid of it. I do see people though, especially families who are walking around on here, they stop and look. You know, we've got the train car over here and they stop and look. So it is a feature of interest that families will stop in and take a peek at. I don't have a huge longing to spend a lot of money on it though. So it would be a little bit sad if it went. Just because of the fact that I see so many people kind of taking a peek at it. It adds another pop of interest of something downtown, but I'm not willing to spend
if-
arm and leg on it either.
If that's of interest, I think we could find some way to pull something in that's maybe more historically accurate with some information.
That's, yeah, I didn't realize it wasn't historically connected to the city. It's not the SS Carver. And again, not that I don't want to keep it, but I don't want to, it's $60,000 to put it back into.
Yeah.
Uh,
And Eric, I will tell you the painful story of how I had to make sure this got placed some other time.
I agree with the majority here. I don't
I feel like a
feel
beer at Harvey's would be
a
involved.
strong, I don't feel a strong desire to keep it.
Yeah. But something of a focal point, you know, some other thing of interest at some point. might be
Yes,
nice.
but not, the caboose has significance and like kids can climb on it if that's a thing. This is not intended to be climbed on. It's not as sturdy. I don't think it's an apples to apples comparison, but
I think we can come up with something that if it's a prerogative of the council that you want some historic feature with some information, that's something we can absolutely entertain. Okay, so we talked about feedback on the landing. Again, parking and restrooms was a big piece of it. You'll see that throughout. So just some good feedback about keeping the historic feel, the historic feature. Again, bathrooms, which is something we spend a lot of money on, but obviously important with that trail use, and also a space where kids could change if they're using the water feature. So yeah, the importance of opening up the bridge with a connection to downtown. So we talked a lot about like what needs to change about the landing. So we've seen a lot of versions of the plan. So this was probably version 1 that got routed, and it did look like it was only a water feature or what folks were calling a splash pad, which I can understand. But looking at what we have changed in the plan, it checks some more of the boxes that folks are looking for the food truck space, some casual seating downtown. The farmer's market, if it continues, would move to this space in the parking lot with some cute lighting, etc. So the conversation was had too of what do we need to change about the landing? And overwhelmingly, it was like how we talk about it and how we think about it as a community gathering space, as opposed to a splash pad water feature. So offering some additional uses there coming off the Merriam Junction Trail. And then we talked about the zoning code, which is probably the most boring part of the meeting. It's been on my to-do list for a long time to do a full update of the code, but that's not likely to happen with the amount of development and other work that we're seeing. So we called out some important sections. So accessory dwelling units, ADUs, the gateway commercial district, so protecting land directly adjacent to county roads, major corridors in town, design standards, so formalizing design standards in commercial and industrial zoning districts that we can have some more feedback on what a building needs to look like when it comes in for concept plan. And then fences in general, that section of the code is really tricky. So it would be cleanup of that general section to allow folks to hopefully clearly understand it.
Haven't you done some of this work
Yeah.
already? Is it like, I don't want the work to go to waste. Is it basically just on these topics, or I thought you were kind of starting
No,
top to
I have
bottom?
some more work done, but it's something I can let go of.
Okay, but I feel like it's also gone through the planning commission. So can we
Some
like,
versions of it, yeah. And I can pick out some spaces where we got to a point where they were saying like, yes, thumbs
Okay.
up, and revise those. As we work through some of these, like some sections, like the definitions will need to get updated because we'll need to define what an accessory dwelling unit is.
Yeah.
So there will be work throughout the code, but these will be the big pieces of it.
I trust your gut, but I don't want a lot of their work to be for
Yeah.
naught.
Agreed.
So-
And then the last question was just anything you've ever wondered or wanted us to work on. So ADUs, cricket, specific feedback for the grocer. We talked about that. The end of the meeting was great. We just did kind of an open Q&A where you could ask questions of staff of things you've been thinking about. So again, that was a recap of the June 8th workshop of the Planning Commission and City Council. Goal of this conversation is to essentially say like, yep, those are the things that we are going to carry on working on right now. So I will open it up to you.
I would just like to thank you for the work, and I'd like to thank Planning Commission for being willing to come in 2 weeks in a row. It was a really great meeting, and not a lot of discussion was had until Q&A, but I think that important things were discussed without discussion, if that makes any sense at all. And
Yeah.
I think that that was really valuable.
And for anyone who's questioning how that happened, I used a program called Mentimeter. So it allowed you to vote anonymously. And I asked that conversation wasn't had just because I didn't want folks to hear a voice that they would think like, oh, that's the direction, or the planning commission to look to the city council to say, which direction should we go? What do you think? So I think it offered some anonymity where folks could be more open on what they were thinking. Except for when someone at the very end was typing for like 2 full minutes when everyone else was done. And it was like, we know who's still working on their answer. You did like a couple that were several slides. Yeah. No, it was Lori too.
It was Lori too.
There's a few
It depended
times.
on the question, but it was one of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
No, it was-
I have lots of times.
So
But yes, thank you for that, Erin. I think that it was really valuable. And like I said, it makes no sense if you weren't there, but a lot of discussion was had without having any discussion. So
Can I have you go forward a couple of slides? There's the one that was like the math for park there. So if I have this right, so like if I'm looking at that park dedication, $4,700 for unit. So if looking back at discussion earlier tonight, so if acre's a little over 43,000 square feet, but if it's the ones that were like the 35-foot lot, there's a lot more units per that acre.
yes, that's true, but that's not how it's determined. So it's per unit. So instead of looking at acreage for park dedication, it's 276 units.
But if that was a plat that had much larger lots, would the park dedication get less money?
Yes.
Okay. So they have smaller lots, but they're contributing more
Correct.
to the parks.
Yes.
Okay. That helps me kind of like feel even more comfortable with the trend of smaller lots.
Sure.
Knowing that the city's collecting money to bring them some amenities. Okay. And green space.
Thank you for your work on this. There wasn't anything in here that I think you've missed. You covered it all.
Full steam ahead.
Full
steam ahead.
steam ahead.
We almost said that in unison.
Maybe we've got a few years to work on that. We'll get to it. I love that picture so much. All right. Do you have what you need from us on that? Okay, great. Up next, we have city council requests or communications. Who wants to go first?
Well,
you,
a
Aaron.
couple of weeks ago,
Thank you.
I attended the League of Minnesota Cities conference in Rochester, immediately following my wedding. And the highlight of that was that our mayor accepted her nomination as president of the League of Minnesota Cities. So that's really exciting. We're gonna get all kinds of media and press attention, and I'm sure grants are just gonna roll in our way.
I think they promise a certain amount, a dollar amount.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but it was the hot topic. A couple of years ago, we were talking about cannabis, and the hot topic and well-attended breakout session was data centers. Imagine that. So I attended that, and I thought it was really helpful to hear some of maybe what are best practices as it relates to what and I don't want to mislabel this, but a good relationship with a data center might look like. So having put our moratorium in place, I'm really confident that gives us some time to see how these data centers evolve, the type that don't require as much water for cooling or electrical draw, or what the zoning requirements evolve into. So it reaffirmed our decision to put up a bit of a pause on that, as there's so much focus on it. But again, the highlight was Madam President, and I'll let the mayor talk more about that. That's all from me.
All right, Lori?
I just have one thing that I noticed in looking for like local activities. Usually I'm not like promoting a Chaska event, but Chaska's their fire and ice. Super cool. Southwest Prime is offering transportation from our station to off of Hartwell to the Fire and Ice Festival at Fireman's Park this weekend.
Thank you. Christy?
I got notice that for the HPC that the sign one is not any longer. So have we canceled the HPC meeting for next week, or are we still having it?
We're still having it. They've resubmitted.
Oh, I guess the email I thought I just read that they had dropped that submission, but apparently I read it wrong.
Nope, they dropped that submission.
Oh,
They
okay.
resubmitted since then.
Oh, okay. Okay, well then we'll have an HPC meeting next week on the sign across the street of what was the old learning center. So now we will have it for the Carver Smoke Shop. So we'll be reviewing that. That's all I have.
Kelly?
Planning Commission, I had a whole bunch of stuff to talk about, and then we talked about all of it during the preliminary plat. But I just wanted to call out, I had a really nice conversation. I went to a Black Sox game with the mayor of Green Isle. Green Isle played last weekend, 2 weekends ago, not 4th of July weekend, but they played here in Carver, and it was very fun to talk to them. They're a much smaller community. They're growing much more slowly, but they're running into a lot of the issues that we have. And I just want to highlight that when we think about our data center, and I know Aaron has brought this up, but we also need to consider what it means more broadly about development, because a lot of the issues that data centers bring up are present in other types of development. So Green Isle isn't dealing with a data center, but they're dealing with a refrigerated warehouse unit. And a lot of the same issues that come up with data centers come up with those as well. And they don't have the same community pushback, but they have the same noise issues and they have the same electricity drain. And so just remembering that what the work we're doing on the data centers is going to be able to give us an opportunity to more broadly consider what responsible commercial development looks like in our community.
Did you talk about his professional career?
Yes. Oh, many times.
He's the ME, which is always an
Yeah,
interesting
he's the
conversation.
medical examiner. He's
He's
you
the
would
director
never
of the
know it by
Midwest
talking to him. He's a
Medical
great guy.
Examiner's all right. I was also at the Planning Commission meeting on June 18th. As you guys know, I try to attend at least one of those meetings a year, and that was the one that I picked. If I wait too long, I start hearing about it from planning commissioners that I waited too long in the year. I didn't. Maybe I'll have to go to another one.
HPC's coming up. If you want
Maybe I will. Let's see. The league conference was great. I did not make it to the data center discussion, but there was a big theme, I think, in general at the conference about civility. I think, Brent says it to us at least once a year annually, but we're kind of an anomaly in that we can disagree respectfully, and at the end of the day, we all get along, and nobody's calling anybody's children or dogs ugly, and we are just really, really lucky for that. So there was a civility pledge that folks had the opportunity to sign. Tim Shriver was one of the keynote speakers, and he gave this really cool presentation that was interactive, and it was talking about like language and where you fell on the spectrum of kind of like civil language and not so civil language. And it was just a really great presentation. I had seen him the previous year at the National League of Cities conference, but just great to see, and lots of all kinds of good content, even better time with colleagues and seeing folks you don't see all that often. So really good time in Rochester. On June 30th, there was the Pages in the Park event at Ironwood Park. It was through the school district's community ed and then the library, where they had reading and there was a story walk and all kinds of games and activities for the kids. The fire department showed up. It was a good time. Let's see. Not so great news. I don't know if the name Marty Wade rings a bell to anyone, but he was a really important piece of the Carver Village Christmas every year, and he passed away the weekend before 4th of July. So every year I went down there to Carver Village Christmas. As you guys know, I don't have kids, and my nephews are a little bit too old for that event, but I would go down there to see him, and he was so terrific. And he was just the right mix of, he was always so appreciative, and he would thank me for having him there. I was like, well, it's not really me, but he also ribbed me for being on the naughty list. So sending thoughts to his family. I also, and I have it here, I also wanted to draw everybody's attention as my last item. The league sent a bulletin out today that I can forward, but it's about city voices are needed on proposed federal grant changes. And every once in a while, the league will do kind of like a call for help. I think that cities have until July 13th to submit comments, but some of the changes that could happen is that, let's see, it could expand federal grant authority for grant terminations, and in many cases allow for termination of grants mid-award. It could also increase administrative burden on cities by introducing new compliance requirements. So, as you guys all know, we've got a lot of grant money coming our way for the levy project. And the idea of a termination mid-award really seems like a threat to not only this project, but the city's finances, in that we would be in too far to pull back. We also know that there were some requirements, some compliance requirements on federal grants already. And I distinctly remember having a conversation with Aaron and Todd and saying like, okay, we would need to get at least this amount of money in grant funding to make it worth it, because there are going to be some requirements. There will be some strings attached to this money. Our ADA plan was one of those things. And while it's 100% the right work to do, and we probably would have done it or incorporated a lot of the changes anyways, there are some additional costs to that. So I'm going to work on writing a letter. If you guys did not get this email today, maybe I'll just forward it. Did you get it?
I get it. I received it.
Okay. I'll forward it to Brent to send it to you guys. But if you can opine and weigh in, that would be fantastic, because I think these things are, the more folks that they hear from, the better.
So are they asking for individuals, or are they asking for, like, as a council whole, that we send something?
I haven't clicked on any of the links, to be completely honest. It says cities have until the 13th to submit their comments. So maybe it's just one comment letter that they want.
I mean, forward it. I'm happy to take a look at it. Yeah.
Yeah, if this came out
yeah.
today, I don't think I received that. So
it did come
individual
out today.
contribution letter to,
I'll forward the
okay.
email,
All right.
and I will read through the email a
Okay.
little bit more to say that it might say something like, whoops, we need to do this as a city. We'll have Brent
right.
help with that. So, but that is it for all of my updates. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Councilmember Pershman,
I was second.
seconded by Councilmember Pasco. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Good evening.